leaders your discernment on how to meet people's needs as they continue to glorify your name and encourage the church. Give our medical leaders insight into how to stop the virus, strengthen their resolve and honor their hard work in creating a treatment for COVID-19 as they medically treat the infected and the inflicted. Give our business leaders a calm, steady, wise perspective in the middle of this emotional stress that both they and their valued employees are experiencing. Give our civic leaders, tonight's mayor and city council members, inspiration, courage, and strength as they seek our community's greater good. We pray all this tonight in the name of the one who is the same yesterday, today, and forever, the one who in the midst of crisis and chaos is our calm and comfort, the Lord our God. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And now we will ask the council if they wish to adopt the agenda. This is a time. Okay, we have a motion by Chad Lewis and a second by Lance Lehman to adopt the agenda as written. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to enter the time for general public comment. And we have around 10 or 12 people in the room here. We have a number of people who have sent emails wishing to be read. So for those of you in the audience that wish to speak, I trust that you've filled out a speaker request form. I'll call your name. You come over to the podium and you'll have 3 minutes, which you get to see with the traffic lights up here on this box, okay? So we'll start off the general public comment with Nathan. Is it Kotz? Okay.
For clarification, Mayor,
Yes.
this is the public comment on the non-public hearing items, I believe, and not just general public comment. I could be incorrect. I didn't look at the subjects.
Yeah, we have a general public comment. So just let me ask this. Is there anyone here that wants to have a general public comment on anything not on the agenda? Anything other than the business closure ordinance? Okay, so we'll skip that then and go to non-public hearing, open public comment, technicality, okay? So you're still up. Nathan, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I really appreciate the prayer. Part of the reason I came was to talk a little bit about God and how He is in control. This COVID-19 reminds me of one of my favorite Bible stories. You all might remember it. It's the story of David and Goliath. In this story, David had to go up against a giant. And this giant every day would go out and tempt the Israelites, say, come fight me, and this will be, if we win, we get it, and if you win, you get your way. But nobody would do it. No one wanted to face him. Nowadays, we have to face giants as we go on in our lives, whether it's cancer, heart problems, loss of a job, businesses closing down, or COVID-19. Right now, the coronavirus is a huge unknown. It's a giant, we might say. In the story of David and Goliath, David knew a couple of things. One, that Goliath was a giant. But he also knew that he knew that he was big and was going to be very hard to defeat. But he also knew he was not bigger than God. We need to be like David when we face things like COVID-19. Even though it's unknown and it's unseen, we got to know that God is much bigger than this problem we have. We need to have faith in God. Now, if you would, if you'll just pray with me, and I'll be done. Dear Heavenly Father, in the name of Christ Jesus, forgive our sins, dear Lord. Thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for all that you do for this country. Be with all of those that are afflicted by this, that need your healing hand. Be with those that are affected in financial ways. Be with those that really just need your guidance. I pray that you will make good of what is bad and bring people back to being faithful to you. I pray that we put this giant in your hands and to understand who is in control, and that this is not us, but that this is not us. Be with the business owners that may be shut down, so that they might weather this storm, weather this giant. Be with the council so that they might make the right decision and understand that they are not in control. It is you that are in control. Be with our president. Be with our Congress. Be with all those that are trying their best to deal with this giant in every way that they know how, that they can do things right in your eyes, to start praying again, maybe praying before each council meeting, before each address to the nation from the president, because at the end of the day, God, you are in control, and you can make good out of bad. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, sir. And now Dave Jetson.
Ever notice when you go to get a prescription, there's always this piece of paper that tells all the side effects? Well, with coronavirus, I'm concerned about a side effect, and that's the emotional impact this is going to have. Now, the reason I bring this up, I've done a lot of research on this. I have found very little information about what people are doing or wanting to do about the emotional impact of increased anxiety, depression, psychological disorders that are going to come from being cooped up in our homes, losing our income, losing our home, and everything of that nature. So the question that I have, and I asked this, I sent an email to you, Steve, and I got a response from Callie Pearson, basically saying that all the first responders are going to take care of this, and that you can call 211. Well, that seemed like a little canned response. I'm really thinking it's important that we address this issue. In 1929, during the Great Depression, this is one of the biggest issues. Depression and that sort of thing created a lot of suicide, homicide, addictive patterns, domestic violence, things of that nature. Now, when we look at the picture, what are we doing to address the whole picture? I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say on this issue, because if you're going to make decisions that are this big and this important, what are you doing to address the whole picture, not just a piece of it? Thank you.
Thank you. Now Nick Urey.
Which mic's hot? This one or both?
Either.
How's it going? I think it's kind of interesting these times. I mean, I think it was George Orwell that sat down and read War of the Worlds over the radio, and people panicked. Al Gore, in The Inconvenient Truth, predicted that we were going to have a 20-foot increase in sea level. And so I really wonder if panic is the pandemic. I got some points here. This is not in just regards to my company, which is the Grand Gateway Hotel Cheers Sports Lounge. I'm also concerned for the loss of income to our local economy and the small business owners who make it possible for us to operate on a daily basis. If you guys do what you're going to do, next week, the cancellation, trickle-down effect will take place with our entertainers, our cleaning contractors. We will not be purchasing any more liquor sales. our security will be gone, and we're going to stop using Serval for linen. These are small business owners who may possibly compete or completely lose their way of living. Very few of these contractors are eligible for unemployment or are able to secure insurance to cover their unexpected loss of income. Second round, week number 2, we will whittle away our staff and we'll get rid of our accountants. Number 3, if you're going to force me to close and other businesses to close, April 30th is when property taxes due. I'm having people ask me to forgive rent. Are you guys going to forgive property tax? Number 4, I invite any businesses that are going to be affected by this pandemic shutdown to assemble for free at the Grand Gateway Hotel, our meeting space, to drop our own guidelines to self-regulate while adhering to CDC guidelines, to be presented to the council at the next meeting. And if all these people are going to take a pay cut, I'm just kind of curious if Mayor Ellinger will also go 60 days without pay. I think that's kind of fair. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Calabrese?
So it's Michael Calabrese.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you. That's all right.
It's possible you're mispronouncing your name.
Evidently, yeah. It's been bastardized along the way some way.
Okay, sorry about that.
So yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today, and I do appreciate your level of concern for the community here. I'm here, though, to voice my opposition to this ordinance that the City Council seems destined to pass. But I'm opposed to it because it singles out certain businesses to bear the burden while doing little to actually stop the spread in our community. With this ordinance, large retailers are required to do nothing to adjust their business practices to prevent infection. The amount of traffic in their stores is evidence of their lack of effort to contain this virus in a meaningful way. There's no shared sacrifice with this plan. As co-owners of a retail store, we're not required to close or make any adjustments to our operation. However, my wife and I have made the tough decision to close our doors indefinitely to protect our customers, our employees, and the community we love. Do big things is the slogan of the city, and that's why we chose to live and grow our business here. This action doesn't live up to that. On top of having little impact locally, the cities in our state are intertwined in a way that prevents this from having any significant impact in slowing the spread of COVID-19. Governor Noem's response to this crisis has been woefully inadequate. Despite her unwillingness to take ownership and lead on this issue, only she has the power to take emergency action statewide. Merely recommending that cities and businesses across the state take action is not enough. Shame on our representatives in Pierre for not pushing harder to protect our community and the citizens of South Dakota. There's already evidence of this outbreak reaching our medical facilities, government buildings, jails, and prisons. By failing to take any decisive measures, we're already behind other states in controlling this outbreak, and will only prolong the suffering that happens to our local community. If and when action is taken statewide, it'll be too late. School has been canceled, forcing many parents to juggle working from home and educating their children. Businesses will close and tourism will suffer because we're extending the timeline that this will affect our communities. All of this will have been for nothing because the disease will continue to spread until we take concrete action across the state of South Dakota. Once again, my name is Michael Calabrese, and there's one very important reason I want to remind you of that. It's because I hope to represent the people of Rapid City as state senator in District 32. If you want someone in Pierre that's willing to stand up for the citizens and businesses as a voice for this community, I would welcome your support. Go to michaelforsd.com to help me fight for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Hinson.
Green light.
Green light.
Green light, good. Good is a four-letter word. Greetings, council members, Mr. Mayor. I stand before you a humble servant, a former Marine, retired Air Force. I serve this community in some small way. Even though I live in Pennington County, I consider myself a resident of Rapid City. I shop here, I do my business here, I'm here every day. I vote in favor of keeping the businesses open for the good of all. A no vote is to hide the candle under the bushel so nobody can see your light, so nobody can see the good of this town. In the Bible it states, you don't do that. You let your light shine so that people can see the good that you do, to spread that, to share that. What four-letter word do we have that is permeating society now? Fear. What are people doing? Running scared. I got my mail today. As a supporter and member of the National Museum of the Marine Corps, it states, always faithful. That is our motto. Faithful to what? God, Corps, country, family, community, for good, that four-letter word. Let good permeate society. Prayer was brought out. What does prayer do? It inspires. It gives you wisdom to do what? To act, to do something. You close yourself up in your homes, you close your businesses, you run and hide from fear. We should not be doing that. If we have a threat, if we have a danger, an adversary, we do something. We act to get rid of that fear, that threat, for the betterment of good for everybody, our family, our community, our nation. May we all supplant this four-letter word of fear with good by keeping the community open so that those in the majority can act even more, as they are doing now, to help the minority, those in need. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tom Johnson.
Mayor, Tom Johnson, I'm the CEO and president of Elevate Rapid City. I do not have any four-letter words for you tonight, but I do represent 1,200, almost 1,200 businesses, and I think the city council often on economic development issues. We are not medical experts, therefore we're not going to try to tell you what to do from a health perspective. What we can say is we do know what's going to happen with the economy. Regardless of the shutdown, we're going to see, as a result of this virus, we're going to see probably in the next 2 to 3 months, by our estimates, 3,000 to 4,000 jobs lost, and we think it's going to be somewhere between $15 and $20 million of payroll lost as well. That's going to spill over significant detrimental effects across the economy. So we are going to see that. That's why I wanted to say thank you tonight for allowing one silver lining if you decide to shut down, that is the ability to conduct business curbside. And that's really what I want to spend my time tonight talking about. Elevate Rapid City, regardless, we got a head start on this. Whether you decide to shut down or not, we already started last week, and I think we have up to 9,000 members of our Facebook page, the Rapid City To Go Facebook page, where businesses can come and talk about what they offer curbside. And so citizens are going there by the truckload to see what they can do and continue to conduct business curbside throughout Rapid City. We also partnered with the Rapid City Journal to put that in the newspaper, and I talked to Matt Tranquil right before this meeting. He said there were hundreds of businesses going and putting their names in the newspaper. We're going to run that for the next 90 days so that citizens of Rapid City know who's open and they can order curbside and pick up. We know that's not going to replace income. It might not even be close, but we're going to try because we have to try. What we're also doing is we have a resource page at elevaterapidcity.com. Just click on resources. You can find out how to apply for an SBA loan. Those loans are coming. They're about 30 to 45 days out. Many small businesses will be able to access those loans. And if you can keep your payroll through this time, many of those loans will actually be forgiven as grants. So that money is out there, it's coming. I've been asked a lot, how do I start that process? Again, you can go to a website, click on resources, it'll tell you how to link that, but the first place you want to go is your lender. Most of these dollars are going to come through the banks, so you want to start a conversation with your lender right now. They're the ones that can direct you to that. Elevate Rapid City's also got resources on if you've lost your job, how to get unemployment benefits. Right now, if you've lost your job, go to that page and click on that. We're also, Mayor and council members, looking at how we can deploy our own capital in the next couple days. So expect an announcement from us. We've got some dollars we're going to help to spend, I think, to help businesses bridge that gap between the SBA money and when it gets here and now. So we're going to look at that as well. We're also going to put some dollars, I think, into child care and homeless or rent mitigation as well in the next week, so look for that. I know my time's up, Mayor. I want to thank you all again for your support. We will get through this together, and we're going to continue to work our butts off to do that. So thank you tonight.
Thank you. These are all the speaker request forms I have. Was there any else out in the audience that were intending to fill one out? No? Okay, now we have a number of emails. First of all, thank all of you that came and thank all of you that stayed home. This is a good practice for us. We've asked for emails to be sent in to our finance officer, Pauline Sumption. She's going to read those emails now. So she has a gross of emails to read, which is ironic because her maiden name is Gross. And so she's going to read now. This is the Pauline Sumption Show for the next 30 or 40 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first one is from Laura Gibson. For those who need work, could find work supporting those in nursing homes and centers that support individuals with disabilities. Those working there now are working in extremely long hours and need help to take care of those people. Thank you. This is from Tony Pigsley with the Rapid City Gold Youth Football Association. I own a local youth football traveling program in Rapid City. We were supposed to start our season last week with personal training. With that being said, we have canceled the start of our season to protect our kids. As someone that owns a small business working with our youth, I do believe that we should put a limit on some businesses. I do think it is a good idea to get ahead of the curve and limit exposure to everyone. Yes, we will take a high hit, but I have assured all of our parents that we will take care of them, that their families and kids matter more. Thank you for your service to our community and for taking open questions. This is from Ashley Bruno. Please keep communities safe. Failure to act with swift and sweeping measures such as this proposed would ensure the spread of this aggressive virus. After listening to various reports from the spread in Italy and Europe, our actions as a country have fallen short. By closing these non-essential businesses, we can keep our community from propagating the spread of this virus. Johnny Knutson. Good evening. Do you think we are acting on this too early? If we don't have it now and we still don't have it in 2 weeks, are we still going to be on lockdown? What if we don't get it for a month? Will we shut down for 2 weeks now and then in a month shut the city down again? People are talking about this like it's going to kill everyone, but the majority of us will only be affected by this similar to how the flu would impact us. We are not Italy. Italy has a high elderly population, a high percentage of which smokes, as well as they have more generations under one roof than we do. The nursing homes locally are already not allowing visitors, and a lot of other businesses are already taking steps to be preventative on this. Have faith in people being smart enough to do the right thing. More people and businesses will become bankrupt or in such a deep financial hole that it will take them a ridiculous amount of time to dig themselves out if able to at all. I am a first responder in Rapid and know this is serious, but these steps seem extreme or at least too quick to make a fear-based decision right now without planning it out more. I want to say, keep in mind some of these are from Sunday still. Lex Kuski. I am a current resident of Rapid City, and I urge you to shut down all non-essential businesses within our community. I came back from Brookings, South Dakota on a trip to get college supplies, and I've never seen so many license plates not from South Dakota coming into our city. We are endangering people within our community by choosing to keep businesses open as foreigners decide to come here because Rapid hasn't closed yet. I implore you to make the right decision for our city and shut down all or nothing. Thank you. Jim White. Mayor and Council, it would seem the best thing to do would be close all businesses, not just the ones you are talking about. Thanks. Rod Pettigrew. All, I have made a very difficult decision today, and that is to close my business to save lives. I am putting people's health and safety ahead of money. I would strongly encourage the mayor and council to give thought to doing the same. Please recommend that all businesses shut down for at least 2 weeks in an attempt to control what is taking over the world. It will hurt us all to close, but the effects of not being proactive will be devastating. Please take positive action and close all non-essential businesses. Bertie Mesteth. Hello, my name is Burdette Mesteth, enrolled member of the Northern Arapaho tribe, married into the Oglala Lakota people, citizen of Rapid City. I'm writing in because I love my people. I love all the citizens here in my city, my state, and my country. I have worked in healthcare for over a decade in many fields, but always direct care. Please don't put our fragile population at risk. I was awarded the Safeguard Award from our very own hospital here. Please heed my warning and help keep our essential workers from getting too burned out. My former coworkers are picking up mandatory extra shifts. I'm considering isolating myself from my family so I can go back to work at the hospital to help my community and to help the people I call friends from getting too burnt out. Let me put it into perspective on how overworked our healthcare workers are. My last day of work in September 2019, I had to cover 2 pods, 9 to 12 patients, and help relieve a staff member who needed a break. It was my only break that day, and by break, I sat down for 3 minutes before I had to help with total cares. This is before a pandemic and after the rush of Rally Week. Vote to approve, please. Try to find the name on this one. I have S. Godnulski. Pauline, please pass this information along. People from outside states are coming here because things are closed in their states and towns, so now we have extra people here to deal with, and they're bringing the virus from their area here to us. Close the airport. At least that will stop some of them. Stores are running out of not only toilet paper and soap, but food too now. Please get ahead of this, and we need supplies for all of us locals. I hope you listen to all of our doctors and hospital, get them the supplies they need in order to help save our lives. Yes, the information below was from Facebook, but it is true. Local news crews have interviewed people from other states that they came here to vacation and get away from what is going on in their states. 2 hotels in Deadwood received a call from San Francisco inquiring if we were open and said they will see us in 15 hours. We had 1 customer from New York who just got off the plane. That was on Friday. This is not right. People are coming out here in flocks. Apparently, Hill City is full. This will make this virus escalate very quickly. Please stop the flights coming in. A few of our workplaces in Deadwood have already closed, but there is a few that will not close until they have to. This will make us close our workplaces even longer. Numbers are only increasing from neighboring states that are flocking to South Dakota. We need a mandated restaurant and bar closure, or this is going to get way out of control. I posted this on Christy Nome's Facebook and Instagram, but we need more people to do the same. Facebook post I saw on 3/22/20 while watching the city council meeting. My husband has severe asthma. I have asthma as well, and I'm prone to pneumonia, so yes, we are scared. We are trying to stay home, but we do need groceries, and we haven't been able to get toilet paper for 2 weeks. I hope there is something you can do to help get more supplies to our stores and to our homes. Bluntly, if we don't get ahead of this, then the small businesses will go out of business because the rest of us will be too sick or dead to go support them. Think of others, not just yourselves. Ask the small businesses to become home delivery services to deliver toilet paper, hand soap, cleaning supplies, and food, be it fresh or canned food. Change their business for the greater good of the public. Apparel, tailors, stores can make masks. Distilleries can make hand sanitizer. Companies that can make products that are needed right now, please do it. Other states' businesses are stepping up. Why not the local companies? Wish we had a toilet paper manufacturer here. Funny, but sadly we could use it about now. Thank you for your time. Marie Rutgers. Pauline, thank you for all you do for the city. Please know that as a newer resident of Rapid City, I have quickly come to love our community and all the charming places to eat, shop, and visit. But what I love even more is that it's an ideal place for retirees, and we have a large number of retirees well past the age of 60. Protecting the elderly and ourselves has to take priority over convenience and profits. We must shut down gathering places before it's too late. We do not have enough healthcare workers or hospital beds to handle what will come our way if we do not flatten the curve and buy ourselves time. Please know I support the major, I think it's supposed to be mayor, and his effort to do the right thing. R. Barrett. My husband and I would like to thank the Rapid City Council for addressing this very difficult issue. We watched the whole 2.5-hour meeting last night. The comments made have already started to make a positive step in this situation. After the meeting, both Robbinsdale Lanes and Meadowwood Lanes have chosen to close down until further notice. While we are both league bowlers, we give great thanks to those two businesses for choosing to do what is right for the safety of their employees and their customers. They are willing to voluntarily sacrifice their livelihood for the greater good. We hope you do pass this ordinance so that those businesses not looking out for the health of Rapid City citizens and only are looking at their own pockets can be forced to do the right thing. We both were born and raised in South Dakota, and our values have always taught us to put others first before ourselves and to love our neighbors. When this is all over, we will go back to supporting our small businesses and entertainment centers, but for now, we need to do what we can to stop the spread of this horrible virus. Thank you for letting citizens provide feedback. We know you have a difficult decision on Friday. This is from Jack Charlesworth. Please make this available to the mayor and city council prior to the above captioned meeting, and I did send it to the council. It may make sense for the city council to take the measures outlined in Ordinance 6412 given the current information. The argument that time is of the essence in making such a decision may be valid given the current information. However, I hope the city council realizes that the matter does not end with the decision made, passed, and implemented. Rather than accepting full responsibility for their decision, the City Council is obligated to the citizens of Rapid City for anticipating and planning for both the anticipated and heretofore unanticipated consequences of their decision. During the special meeting held on Sunday, March 22, 2020, those speaking in favor of the ordinance made reference to recommendations and information provided by the CDC, the White House, and Monument Health. The letter attached to the ordinance materials refers to predictive models, data-driven decisions, and recent history as reasons for their support of passage of the ordinance. During the public comment portion of the meeting, a speaker in support of the ordinance lectured those small business people present about the scientific basis for supporting the ordinance. At one point, she noted the current lack of testing and test results, indicating that the medical community needed this data so they could better understand the crisis. Clearly, a lot of data was being looked at concerning the decision to propose the ordinance. The foregoing must mean that the City Council understands that good decision-making requires good supporting information. Given that, I'm sure that the citizens of Rapid City can expect the City Council will be collecting the following information so that they can adequately prepare for the consequences of the passage of Ordinance 6412. As much of this information is available or can be derived from existing data previously collected by the city, state, and federal governments, it should be easier to obtain than the data being sought and relied upon by the medical community. Data such as the following should be obtained. 1. The number of persons that will be rendered unemployed by the passage of this ordinance, including the number of businesses obtaining first-time business licenses in the past 2 years and therefore potentially at risk under the ordinance. This information could be used to determine the impact of potential increased demand on the services of social support agencies and not-for-profit organizations, not just for the unemployed individuals, but their families as well. Potential increased demand on available food and other critical supplies by these social support agencies and not-for-profit organizations, and the secondary impact this would have on the city's retail establishments' ability to provide adequate supplies of food and critical items to the citizens at large. Potential increased demand on city public safety services due to the negative psychological consequences of being unemployed with little or no opportunity for alternative employment. Potentially underserving unemployed individuals and their families with respect to alternative meaningful activities to fill their time and promote positive attitudes. Additional issues and costs to the city related to persons that will be rendered unemployed by the passage of this ordinance. 2. The total number of establishments to be closed under this ordinance. This information could be used to determine the secondary impacts on landlords and the array of commercial service providers that derive income from the above entities. The secondary impacts of potentially significant reductions in commercial transactions related to the use of private transportation. The impact of city tax, license, and fee revenues lost and how the shortfall will be made up, including the impact of the viability of seeking future proposed increases in property and other taxes for major infrastructure projects. Potential increased demand on city public safety services due to the obligation of the city to ensure the 24/7 security of closed commercial establishments. 3, the total number of meals served at restaurants, food courts, coffee houses, bars, clubs, cafes, and other similar places of public accommodation offering food and beverages for on-site consumption. This information could be used to determine the ability of existing food retailers to support the sale of food and supplies necessary to replace meals previously consumed outside the home, including considerations regarding the physical space and workforce necessary to do so, even as the existing food retailers reduce hours and the number of employees. The potential increased demand on city sanitation services as garbage pickup is shifted from commercial providers serving restaurants, food courts, coffee houses, bars, clubs, cafes, and other similar of public accommodation offering food and beverages for on-site consumption to citizens preparing meals at home. Potential negative health impacts of shifting from food service environments that are known to the patron to large retail food providers where significantly more people congregate, often in the close quarters of unmonitored waiting lines or checkout queues. The potential negative impact on those elderly that rely on restaurants for preparation and serving of one or more of their daily meals. Other similar issues related to the closing of restaurants, food courts, coffee houses, bars, clubs, cafes, and other similar places of public accommodation offering food and beverages for on-site consumption. 4, based on research into previous once-in-a-lifetime national crises, the significance of the availability of recreational activities with respect to the psychological well-being of the governed population. This information could be used to determine whether and how public recreational facilities can be used in the future. In addition, through passage of this ordinance, the City Council has a further obligation to develop post-ordinance 6412 plans to give small businesses a real chance to reestablish themselves, free from tax and other city-imposed burdens for the period of time necessary to ensure a high probability of their success. Finally, using the unprecedented and hypercritical nature of the COVID-19 crisis as an excuse for failure to address these issues on an equally timely basis does not absolve the City Council of the responsibility for and the accountability related to addressing all the governmental needs of the entire city and its citizens. This is from Cameron Humphreys. Hi, Pauline. I hope all is well with you. I'm sending this article in hopes that you'll read and share with city leadership. My daughter shared Steve's Facebook update with me where he said the city's approach is to not implement restrictions at this time. As you will see from the article, the costs on limited action early are extremely high, and to lend more weight to the conclusions of the article, Sarah, one of the smartest and most optimistic physicians I know, is imploring everyone to stay home and for municipal and state governments to implement the strongest restrictive measures in an effort to reduce the pending catastrophic strain on the medical system to save lives. New Mexico, as well as other states and communities, have heeded the warnings and have implemented stay-at-home orders. However, South Dakota and Rapid City have not. As you know, my children, grandchild, and my best friends live in Rapid, and I want all of you to be safe. Sent with love and concern. This one is from Helen Ucera. First of all, thank you for the effort you are making to address COVID-19. As a person with autoimmune disease ×2, I am being cautious, but community efforts are helpful. My question is, can you also include restrictions to Walmart, Target, grocery stores, and pharmacies to put in distance rules? It seems to me that the lines in these places are likely to have an impact on the spread. I have tried to order my groceries online for pickup, and neither Safeway or Family Fare had the items in stock. I had to go to the store to see what they had, thus increasing exposure. Thank you for your initiating efforts. Please consider this scenario as well. This one is from J.B. Curry. From Memphis, Tennessee, today, issued from their mayor. Please do something very similar. Memphis Mayor Jim Strickland on Monday ordered all non-essential businesses to close and residents to stay at home for the next 2 weeks. As you are well aware now, we are in serious, unprecedented times which call for decisive actions to keep everyone safe, Strickland said. Strickland said Bartlett, Collierville, and Germantown were under similar orders. The Safer at Home executive order will go into effect on Tuesday, March 24 at 6 p.m. Residents will be required to stay at home unless deemed as having an essential job or for essential needs. Here's what you can do. Go to the grocery store, convenience, or warehouse store. Go to the pharmacy. Go to medical appointments. Go pick up food from restaurants. Care for other families, friends, family members, take a walk, go out in nature, walk your pets, take pets to veterinarian, help others to get necessary supplies, receive deliveries from any business which delivers. What you should not do: go to work unless you're providing an essential service, visit family, friends if it is not urgent, maintain less than 6 feet of space between you and another person, visit loved ones in a hospital, nursing home, or skilled nursing facility. Essential services: research and laboratory services, hospitals, walk-in care health facilities, emergency veterinary and livestock services, elder care, medical wholesale and distribution, home health care workers or aides for the elderly, dental services, nursing homes or residential health care facilities, medical supplies and equipment manufacturers and providers, grocery stores including stores that sell non-grocery items like Family Dollar, Dollar General, Walmart, auto repair shops, pharmacies, convenience stores, farmers markets, gas stations, restaurants, bars, but only for takeout delivery, hardware and building material stores, retail to go, stores that will exclusively deliver goods to customers curbside, cell phone and electronic store, trash and recycling, collection, processing and disposal, mail and shipping services such as FedEx and UPS, laundromats, home or building cleaning and maintenance, child care services, auto repair, warehouse distribution and fulfillment, funeral homes, crematoriums and cemeteries, pest control, property management companies, skilled trades such as electricians, HVAC and plumbers, commercial and residential construction, planning, engineering, design firms, food banks, homeless shelters, banks, newspaper media, Uber, Lyft, MATA, blood banks, airports, food processing, manufacturing agents, chemical plants, medical equipment, instruments, pharmaceuticals, sanitary products, telecommunications, microelectronics, semiconductor, agriculture, and farms. Non-essential services: personal appearance businesses like hair salon, eyelash salons, barbershop, tattoo shop, body piercing shop. Retail with no exclusive delivery or curbside pickup. Entertainment and recreation facilities such as bowling alleys, trampoline parks. Indoor rock climbing, craft business. Gyms, including yoga, bar, and spin facilities. Concert venues, theaters, movie theaters, shopping malls, golf courses, sporting event venues, skating rink, dance schools. Strickland issued the emergency declaration on March 17, just as Shelby County health officials confirmed the 3rd case of coronavirus in the county. On Monday, the county confirmed its 84th case. This declaration allows the city and its departments and agencies to seek any and all necessary federal and state funding to facilitate the response to the emergency. Additionally, all required procedures and formalities as to procurement on behalf of the city are hereby suspended for purchases of equipment, materials, supplies, and services needed for emergency management purposes, the mayor said in the declaration. This one went through Facebook, and so give me a minute here. It's not going to it, so I'm going to have to skip that one. My apologies. This is from a salon studio owner. Hello. I'm aware salons are not on the mandated closure set for Friday. I'm a small business owner of a Sola salon studio. I have chosen to close this week to protect myself and family. I see numerous people every day and have no way of distancing myself. People still come in with allergies, coughs, and who knows. I've even had out-of-state people walk in for services. I know many salon owners shutting for the same reason. Please add salons to your non-essential list. We will qualify for assistance through cosmetology law. Governor Noem shut down state board offices but not salons. Also, Minnesota salons were closed per governor's request last week. This is crazy to think this would not be mandated to close. We have no way of protecting ourselves, and people are not staying away. This is Becca Hodick. Good afternoon. I had the opportunity to watch the city council meeting last night. I am very thankful that the council is taking measures to help a community protect itself. With that in mind, I own a salon and spa in town that has 9 sole proprietors that booth rent from me. We are in a difficult situation due to the fact that the beauty industry was not on the mayor's list of gathering locations. If we look at what the CDC recommends, No more than 10 people in an area. I have 9 of us working, and we each have a client. That obviously puts us over 10. Distancing of 6 feet from others. I know I've got very talented ladies behind the chair, but I don't think it is possible for us to obey this one either. Basically, we are in a situation. Our business has seen many cancellations for this week already. If the city or government doesn't close us, we cannot get the help we will need to provide for our families and keep our businesses afloat during this difficult time. Please consider adding salons and spas to the list of mandatory closings. This one asked to be anonymous. Good afternoon, Pauline. As a long-term resident of Rapid City, I'm concerned with the lack of closures in our area. I'm worried that closing bars and restaurants will deter people to larger places like the Rushmore Mall, Menards, Lowe's, Runnings, etc. These places are always extremely busy, but with the closures I feel like they will be overrun with people. There are elderly people working at these businesses that are being forced to show up or they will lose their job. My husband works at one of the above mentioned and comes into contact with people who openly admit they have been around someone who has tested positive for COVID-19, even though it's been said that Pennington doesn't have any more positive cases. I am 5 months pregnant and am also being subjected to this virus through my husband. These closures need to include more non-essential businesses. People are not taking the precautions they should. Just because you're closing bars and restaurants doesn't mean these people aren't going to shop for the home projects they think they need. Wuhan is lifting their travel ban on April 8th. If we don't do something now, it will be too late. Thank you for your time. This is also from Becca Hodick. Rumor has it, as of this morning, salons had not been added to the list of mandatory temporary closures. I would love to invite the mayor and the other city council members to come sit in any salon for a normal 8 to 10 hour day. Come stand a foot behind the chair that is full of clients throughout the day and see that we are indeed a place of gathering. I completely understand that we do have a choice to close our doors, but we do not have the option for assistance as other mandated closures do. Our landlords require us to pay full rent because there is no mandatory temporary closures for their industry. We don't have clients booking ahead because of this crisis. I have 7 people for the next 2 weeks on my schedule. Tell me, how do I pay my rent? How do other sole proprietors pay their rent? Because the city council is not including us, we may have to take out additional loans that we are unsure if we can pay back. We may have to close our doors completely. Can the city not help us? There are so many other states that have included salons, spas, tattoo, tanning, waxing, etc. It's a complete shame that we pay our city and state taxes and cannot feel supported by you in a time of need. This is from a John Olms. Dear representatives, we live full-time in a recreational vehicle, but we are not vacationers. I work and travel in my house on wheels. It is my only home. I commend the work that our state and federal officials are doing to help keep every citizen safe. I too am doing everything within my power to comply with the mandates and recommendations from CDC and other officials. However, in the earnest attempt to keep us safe, people like me are being totally overlooked. Every day I learn of another campground and/or RV park closure. Those remaining are doing everything they can to comply with social distancing, sanitizing, and self-isolation measures. You must keep state and private RV campgrounds open. I urge you to deem these businesses as essential. Without these campgrounds, you will be leaving me and hundreds of thousands of fellow full-time RVers without an area to shelter in place or remain safe at home. Campgrounds provide a natural place to self-quarantine and shelter in place because of the distance between campsites being much greater than in apartment buildings, condos, and hotels. Moreover, campgrounds provide essential services in the form of laundry rooms and propane sales. Worse still, if campgrounds close, I will be forced to continue to travel in search of a campground at which I can remain for an extended period of time. Just like me, I feel sure all of my RVing comrades are trying to secure a place to hunker down, stay safe, and help flatten the curve of this monstrous pandemic. You've asked for our help, and now we must ask for yours. Please protect us by retaining the parking locations that are open to us through private businesses by deeming them essential businesses. Additionally, we would appreciate your support in reopening any other facilities, such as state and federal lands that may be closed, so that others will have a place to park during this crisis too. Respectfully signed, John Olms. Michael Bell. Greetings. As a Rapid City resident watching intently the coronavirus as it works itself through our country and the world, I am increasingly finding myself asking if the measures that we are taking to prevent its spread are irrelevant. As of this email, the case total in the United States is over 68,000, with an attributable mortality of approximately 1,100. Almost half of these are in New York City, which unfortunately is being very adversely affected by the virus. However, if we take the numbers into account, the actual mortality rate of this virus is about 1.4%. As we know, almost everyone who contracts the virus will either have no symptoms at all or mild symptoms. Only about 15% have significant symptoms, with about 5% requiring hospitalization. Late last week, a group of Rapid City physicians released a breathless, hysteria-filled letter warning that based on a recent Harvard study, the Rapid City area could experience 40,000 sick, 8,000 hospitalized, and 400 requiring a ventilator. Untold will die. Further, they also proposed closing virtually every business in Rapid City that the doctors, in their prudish arrogance, deemed non-essential, to include daycare facilities, which I might add healthcare workers rely on. This letter is perhaps the most ridiculous, panic-filled dictation of quackery and nonsense I've ever seen. What these doctors don't tell you is that the numbers they present in their Harvard study, which, by the way, I cannot locate to verify its authenticity, are not based on a single outbreak. Viruses tend to follow specific patterns of transmission and spread, sometimes incurring several peaks and seasons of transmission. The numbers would thus reflect multiple instances of infection, not a single outbreak. Further, if daycare facilities are closed, which the city does not have the authority to do anyway, along with churches, businesses will lose 80% of their employees outright. It is exactly this type of sensationalist, puerile nonsense and hysteria in which we arrive at the decision you're about to make tonight. Based on what I saw on Sunday, the closure of restaurants and recreational facilities is probably a foregone conclusion. While it perhaps a prudent move to make, the relevant issue at hand is how long do you keep them shut down? A week, a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year? You can't shutter these businesses for long without severe economic damage to the community. And then there's tourist season. We have to restore some normalcy by mid-May, or the economic damage to the Rapid City area will be incredible, impossible, permanently irreparable. 5%. That's the segment of the population we are enduring these measures for. 5%. As 80 to 95% of people with the virus will recover on their own, or in most instances will not even know they've had it. And when those people lose their jobs and potentially their homes to save 5% of the population, please ask yourself, was it worth it? Was it worth driving the economy of our city and our nation into the ground to protect a small segment of the population who will die anyway? My answer to those questions is not only no, but emphatic hell no. Patrick Vidal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm requesting that you consider excluding golf courses from the businesses you intend to close with your resolution number 6412. I believe it would be safe and even beneficial to keep them open, especially at this time. I say this for the following reasons. Golf is a sport that does not require one to get close to his or her opponents. On a golf course, it is not difficult at all for golfers to stay at least 6 feet away from each golfer. This is true even when they are in the same group. At times, golfers in the same group may be 600 feet away from each other. A group of golfers is almost never greater than a foursome. Seldom do 2 foursomes on the same hole get closer than 100 yards from each other. The only time golfers commonly get close to each other while playing golf is when they ride together in a golf cart. This can be prevented with a simple 1 rider per golf cart rule. Older golfers are actually the only golfers who need to use the golf carts. They need them because they cannot walk and carry a heavy golf bag for 18 holes or even 9 holes. Golf carts cause wear and tear on golf courses, however, so it would be best if any 2 golfers playing together could still just use 1 cart. This could be done if the golf cart were used primarily to carry the golfers' bags and only one of the golfers rode in the cart and the other walked. This would maintain the necessary social distancing between the 2 golfers. If this was a rule the golfers had to follow in order to be able to play their favorite sport, I don't think they would object. I would not mind walking at all if I did not have to carry my clubs. A rental golf cart could be a potential transmitter of disease if it was used by an infected person and not cleaned with disinfectant before the next person used it. This possibility could be prevented by simply pointing this fact out to the next person who is going to use the cart, so he could clean it before he used it. It should not be too expensive for a golf course to provide disinfectant wipes so golfers could wipe down their rented golf carts before they use them. Alternatively, the golf course could simply require the golfers bring their own wipes. Golfers are accustomed to rules because golf is a sport which has hundreds of them. Therefore, a few new rules to prevent our golf courses from being potentially contagious aren't going to bother too many golfers. Existing rules already prevent persons from sharing equipment. The following other rules could be adopted to prevent any disease from being spread by other means. 1. No touching of flag sticks on the greens. 2. No touching of the ball washers at the tee boxes. 3. No sitting on the golf course benches. 4. No touching of the sand traps rakes. 5. No use of the water coolers. 6. No use of the porta potties. 7. Don't touch other golfers' golf balls or used tees. 8. Don't shake hands at the beginning or end of your round. 9. Bring some disinfectant wipes with you when you are playing golf. I was a golf course maintenance person for a number of years. I cannot think of any reason why a golf course's maintenance crew cannot adequately care for a golf course and still stay 6 feet away from each other and the golfers. I've worked in a golf course pro shop. A pro shop is no different than any retail store. I cannot think of any reason why a pro shop could not be operated safely if only credit cards and no cash were used for payments. The starters and marshals who control the flow of golfers on a golf course should be able to perform their responsibilities without getting within 6 feet of any person. The passing of a receipt should not be required to prove a golfer has paid to play. A simple phone call from the pro shop to the starter could provide assurance the golfer has paid. Our country's medical experts, as well as our federal and state government leaders, are recommending, even when we are self-isolating, we should go outdoors occasionally to get some exercise, sunshine, and fresh air. Their reasoning is this will help our general health, and our general health is important if we become exposed to the virus. Golf courses provide a perfect venue to get exercise, sunshine, and fresh air. On a nice day, if you are on a golf course, you will come closer to fewer people than if you are on a busy bike path or sidewalk. Golf is a lot of people's only hobby. Even of greater importance now, it provides one the possibility to have fun and socialize at a safe distance with a few friends. During these trying times, there will not be many facilities available or activities possible that can do this. For these reasons, our golf courses can help people maintain their mental wellness. For as long as this crisis lasts, the city most assuredly will have less revenue coming in from sales taxes and a lot of its other normal sources of revenue. If our golf courses were allowed to remain open, they can remain a source of revenue for our city. They can provide an outdoor recreational activity for people whose other recreational activities have been necessarily shut down. This will create new golfers and increase the golf course's use and revenues. This will be a benefit to the golf courses and the city even after the current crisis has ended. I am a 68-year-old golfer. I have a precondition that would make me especially vulnerable if I caught the COVID-19 virus. I fear going to the grocery store because it would be difficult for me to stay away from other shoppers. I do not fear going to the golf course because it would not be difficult for me to stay away from other golfers. I hope you will give my request some serious consideration. You could at least give it a try to see if the golfers would follow the necessary rules. It will allow people to do something normal when there are so many abnormal things going on in their lives. Most importantly, it is something they can do safely. Thank you. P.S. I will be following this email with an email I just received from the South Dakota Golf Association. They also believe golf can be a safe and valuable recreation and wellness option during this time. This is from the South Dakota chapter of the Golf Course Superintendent Association of America. I actually received it from Parks and Rec's Director Jeff Bigler. Dear Mayor Allender, on behalf of the golf industry in Rapid City, South Dakota, we represent golf courses and sports turf fields throughout the Rapid City metropolitan area. Thank you for your leadership through this challenging time as the COVID-19 pandemic has affected all segments of our lives. Golf is an important asset during this difficult time. Averaging 150 acres of open space, the opportunity for social distancing on a golf course is similar to other healthy activities like taking a walk through one of our state parks or city trails. Many state and local governments, including the states of Washington and Michigan, recognize this fact and have allowed golf courses to remain open for play, giving participants a healthy and enjoyable experience while responsibly social distancing at the same time. Whether utilizing a cart or walking, playing golf oxygenates the body, provides mental and physical stimulus, and offers a place to enjoy fresh air in the outdoors. Managers and superintendents at golf properties throughout the Rapid City area are taking all necessary precautions to keep maintenance staff safe by considering all health advisories and recommendations by the CDC. To emphasize safety, golf course superintendents and field managers have proactively adjusted maintenance practices in many ways, including but not limited to increasing communication with owners, management, and staff regarding altered management practices, staggering staff starting times to reduce employee contact points, keeping 6 feet of social distancing at all times throughout the day, Limiting time clocks or assigning one individual the responsibility of punching employees in, out, reduce touch points. Increase sanitizing of all workspaces and bathrooms. Mandatory wearing of gloves at all times, no sharing of utility vehicles, and sanitizing all hand tools. On the course itself, important practices are ongoing. Removal of ball washers, rakes, and water coolers from the golf course to minimize touch points. Ensuring flag sticks are sanitized and remain in cups at all times. Cup inserts restricting the ball from fully entering the hole, minimizing contact with surfaces. If a course or field cannot be maintained, turf grass and plant life will decline and the community will lose a vital asset. We would like to ask for clarification on whether golf courses can remain open for play. But if, excuse me, but if golf courses cannot remain open for play, we ask that at least essential maintenance of the property be allowed. If not maintained, the landscape and property of a golf course could become compromised, damaged, or unsafe in the following ways. If left unmowed for long periods of time and allowed to grow too long, grasses on golf greens cannot be effectively mowed back down to a functional height and those surfaces will be lost. Crime and vandalism are also much more likely on properties not consistently monitored. Populations of disease-carrying pests such as mosquitoes, ticks, and fleas can quickly multiply, threatening human and animal health. The potential for damage to critical golf courses and turf field infrastructure, including pump stations and irrigation lines, will also be avoided by allowing routine operations, testing, and inspection. On the contrary, environmental health of the property can be achieved when appropriate changes to maintenance staff functions that put the greatest emphasis on safety are implemented. Golf course managers and superintendents are doing just that. On Friday, March 27, Rapid City could issue a mandate for all non-essential businesses be closed until further notice. For the reasons outlined above, we feel golf courses and properties in Rapid City should have the ability to stay open. The associations represented in this letter understand the gravity of the COVID-19 outbreak and stand with your office to stop the transmission of this deadly disease. Mayor Allender, thank you for your attention to this important matter. We wish you the best as you navigate Rapid City through these difficult times. Sincerely, James Walraven, Richard Witt, and Tom Janza from the various organizations. This is from Stephen Dubin. Dear Mayor and Council members, my name is Stephen Dubin. I grew up in the Black Hills region and frequent Rapid City often. I have family, friends, teachers, and colleagues that call Rapid City home. I know your inbox are overflowing, but I write to you tonight with a heavy heart pleading for your attention. My husband and I both work in healthcare in New York City. We watched the Common Council meeting this past Sunday, and we were in awe of your courage. I write to beg of you to shut down Rapid City, put it on pause as we did here in New York. Today I walk past ERs who have full streets shut down to only ambulance traffic. A hospital in Queens is struggling to keep their ER afloat. The city is suffering, and we have enacted CDC guidelines for weeks. To bend the curve, you have to have the courage for people to think you overreacted. You have to be willing to look like you overreacted to save lives. Please have that courage. I fear for the lives of my parents, of my elderly friends, relatives, colleagues. COVID-19 does not just strike the elderly, but as we're learning, it strikes the young and healthy. 20% of all cases will require hospitalization. The Black Hills region will not have enough care for everyone, and Denver will not be backup as they will already be overrun. I plead with you to shut down the city for the sake of everyone. Do as much as you can now. It will save lives. Sylvia Conrad. Honorable Mayor Allender and all City Council members. Tomorrow night you will vote on COVID-19. I do take this very seriously, as I think most people do. However, I strongly urge you to think about how serious a 60-day closing of some businesses and recreation would affect our community. I understand that the 60 days can be repealed or revised. What I do not know is how that repeal would take place. How many meetings? What would the time frame be? May I suggest you put a workable policy in place with a drop-dead clause to be effective upon a majority vote. Here are the actions taken by areas much more impacted than we are according to articles in the Rapid City Journal. Africa, the most industrialized economy with 57 million people, will go into a 21-day lockdown. Washington State, the governor ordered non-essential businesses to close and residents stay home until April 6th. Michigan, the governor told residents to stay home. Louisiana, the governor enacting a stay-at-home order. Canada, non-essential businesses must close for at least 14 days. I'm asking that you look real hard at a 60-day ordinance. Also consider something more flexible than an ordinance. Thank you. This is respectfully submitted. This is from the Rapid City Youth Council. Purpose of the memorandum. The purpose of this memorandum is to provide the Rapid City Common Council perspective from the Rapid City Youth City Council. This memorandum directly relates to the proposed ordinance number 6412, an emergency ordinance to address a public health crisis by implementing certain measures which have been deemed necessary to slow the community spread of coronavirus, or COVID-19. Executive summary. On the 25th of March 2020, the Rapid City Youth City Council held a special meeting to discuss a proposed ordinance addressing the current public health crisis. The Rapid City Youth City Council reviewed the proposed ordinance in full. Members took into consideration verbal and written testimony and current health data from the state of South Dakota. The Rapid City Youth City Council shares the concerns of the community as we all try to balance the health and well-being of the individual as well as the economy. The decision before the Rapid City Common Council regarding enacting proposed ordinance number 6412 is not an easy one, nor one with a clear answer. Of the Rapid City Youth City Council members present at the special meeting, 9 were in favor of the proposed ordinance and 4 were opposed to the proposed ordinance. 5 members were excused from the meeting. Those in opposition raised concerns around the economic impacts this ordinance would have on families, youth, and all community members, while those in favor raised the concern of primary need to protect personnel health. Regardless of position on the proposed ordinance, all Rapid City Youth City Council members shared a common concern for the seriousness of the situation and called the community to action in following Center for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines around social distancing and hand washing. Proposed action. Members of the Rapid City Youth City Council encouraged the Rapid City Common Council to consider the impact of the proposed ordinance on the youth of our community. Members of the Rapid City Youth City Council encouraged the Rapid City Common Council to consider the impact on the proposed ordinance on the healthcare system. The Rapid City Youth City Council endorses current guidelines of the CDC, World Health Organization, and State of South Dakota Governor's executive order in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and calls on all community members to practice social distancing, quality hand washing, and general hygiene cleaning techniques. The Rapid City Youth City Council calls on the community to take personal responsibility for the well-being of the community, to be good examples, and to be there for each other in this time of need. The Rapid City Youth City Council calls on the community of Rapid City to stand united with surrounding communities, states, and nation. Discussion. The Rapid City Youth City Council discussed at length the current COVID-19 pandemic. Members shared perspective and testimony on the current impacts they are seeing due to the situation. The Rapid City Youth City Council considered the proposed ordinance's ability to limit the spread of COVID-19, economic implications of the proposed ordinance, and social well-being implication. Youth in Rapid City are feeling the economic impacts, and many have already lost income due to voluntary closures. Members weighed the economic impact this ordinance would have against its ability to limit the movement of people in public spaces, and therefore limiting the spread of COVID-19. Concern around inaction in attracting out-of-city commerce and travel was raised. While other regions closed down, leaving ours open creates a higher likelihood of inward movement. Rapid City Youth City Council members are aware of their oath of office to protect the people of Rapid City. In order to prioritize a healthy economy, we need to have healthy people. Those who were not in favor of the proposed ordinance stated it was a personal decision to go out or close their businesses. Limiting the ability for spread would lessen the chance of mutation, potentially lessening problems in the future. Rapid City Youth City Council members recognize the need to act now before it escalates to an extreme. Implications. The Rapid City Youth City Council finds the current public health crisis to be one of great seriousness, requiring us all to act as a supportive community. The Rapid City Youth City Council shares the national concern around the economic hardships this situation is imposing on families and individuals. The Rapid City Youth City Council offers support, perspective, and remains available to the Rapid City Common Council as its members grapple with this proposed ordinance and ongoing public health crisis. Respectfully submitted this 25th day of March 2020. This is one that wishes to remain anonymous. I have a question for the Friday meeting regarding daycare preschool facilities. Are they able to stay open and considered essential? I know other surrounding states have closed daycares but have a couple open for essential employees only. Nothing has really been stated about daycare, so just curious. Thank you and stay healthy. Alicia and Eric Bowe. Hi, Ms. Sumption. As constituents of Ward 5, my husband and I wanted to express our support of the pending ordinance to close non-essential businesses. Though this will invoke a financial hardship on many of our small businesses, I trust as a community we will do anything and everything we can to support and rebuild these businesses when it's safe to do so. Until then, the well-being of our community is in jeopardy, and we must do anything in our power to protect our most vulnerable neighbors while we still can. Though many criticize this decision in the short term, I believe in the long run, based on the results of other countries and states, we will see that this was the right decision. Thank you for ensuring our safety in these unprecedented times. Be well. Ron and Charlene Mitchell. Mayor and City Council members, while we practice responsible social distancing, thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment on the passage of Emergency Ordinance 6412. Several speakers at the March 22 meeting urged delaying such action, citing that as of March 22, there were no documented cases in the city, and the proposed ordinance was an overreaction. On March 25, Rapid City logged its first confirmed COVID-19 case. That one case has resulted in 112 additional individuals being put at immediate risk. Overnight, Rapid City went from being an observer to a full-fledged participant in the COVID-19 fight. The decision you are making tonight should have been made at the federal or state level. Unfortunately, the buck has been passed to you. Yes, it shutters small businesses. Yes, people will be laid off. Yes, this will be difficult for everyone. However, we are already behind the curve. Further delay will only result in more new cases, increased death rates, and a longer recovery time. We fully support Emergency Ordinance 6412 and strongly urge the Council to approve it unanimously. This is from Heather Schuler. Good afternoon, Pauline. I would just like to voice my concern in the closing of small businesses that may occur tomorrow. My husband and I both own small businesses in Rapid City, and he has already been affected by the panic that has happened to the city. My business is still busy as I own a pet grooming salon and have been in business for 22 years. I totally agree that places that have people gather is a big concern and precautions need to be done, which I think the businesses have been doing that while trying to keep employees employed and bills paid at the same time. My concern is with those businesses that don't have people gathering that the closure would affect. On any given day, the salon sees no more than 15 people at random times. You can't tell me that if the big chain stores get to stay open, that only 15 people would be there. Please think about all the small businesses that this shutdown can affect and how it will have an impact on the city. Yes, we will recover, but will it be in enough time to keep the doors open to that business? Thank you for letting business owners have a voice. Please remember we pay for the council in one way or another. Thank you. Krista Pickett. I'm writing this out of great concern for myself and fellow hairstylists, as social distancing is impossible in our career field. Salons aren't mentioned specifically in the shutdown proposal, and that to me is mind-blowing. Our own cosmetology commission, the ones that inspect us for sanitation and procedures, has shut down, but salons continue to be open. Please make the call to protect our city and be specific when doing so. Now is the time. Thanks for your help. Thanks for your time. This is from Cher Daniel. Dear City Council members, I want to thank you for your time and leadership, especially in this confusing and stressful time in our community right now. I recognize my email will be one of hundreds you read before Friday, March 27th, and I thank you for your time and consideration. My overall request is this. I respectfully ask the council members to stay the course with the second reading of the ordinance to address the COVID-19 concern and vote yes. I see and speak through the lens of an educator, community member, and a parent. I recognize the hardship this brings to many of the people in our community. It breaks my heart to know that 550 students I serve are home for an extended time and maybe longer. Some of them are getting just what they need at home, and I know some are getting the exact opposite. As a community member, I have neighbors, friends, peers, and families whom I serve that the economic impact will be devastating. As a parent, I have a graduating senior who won't be able to partake in the usual senior milestones, and that feels unfair, but really it is not. I use the wording feels unfair, not is unfair, for a specific reason. None of this feels fair, and that is just the way it is. This is and will be a great equalizer for all of us. I listened to this Sunday meeting and heard many belabor the point of how this impacts them. How, if this is done, it will hurt them and their business and bottom line. I get that, I really do. What will look fair What will fair look like when any one of us have a loved one who needs medical care and will be turned away or passed over someone for more needy? I don't believe that will feel fair either. I love my state and my country. I heard many comments of how this next step is unconstitutional and takes away rights and isn't about the people. I agree to disagree. America was built on independence and individualization, but this "don't tell me what to do" attitude will kill some and affect all of us. America was also built on determination and resilience to do hard things, to overcome and persevere. That is what we're asking people to do. Yes, the economy will take a hit. Yes, it will last months, even years. But isn't that what made our country and state great, that we can overcome even when it doesn't feel fair and is hard? Please have the determination and resilience to do what is right for our city, and please know there is a large majority who agree. Thank you for your leadership and services. Justina, can we please just be proactive and do a forced 2-week shutdown citywide of everything? I work in healthcare, not a nurse, and I feel people are really not taking this seriously and not grasping the magnitude of this virus. Nancy Tyndall, can you explain how this will have any positive outcome? As long as Black Hawk, Box Elder, Somerset, Piedmont, and all the other small towns that surround us don't close their bars and casinos, other non-essential business people will just go there and continue community spread. How do we combat that? Thank you. Patricia Berg, I urge the mayor and the city council to listen to the medical profession and take urgent measures to combat the spread of the coronavirus in Rapid City, including closing bars, restaurants, etc., where people can congregate. Too many people are not following recommendations to socially distance themselves or stay home. The medical professionals are the experts and their message should be heeded. Thank you. Scott Nelson, hi. We operate Lake Park Campground on Chapel Lane. This is to give you some insight in how we operate during these times of the coronavirus. Our shower house and bathrooms are closed until such time that it is deemed to be safe. We do offer full hookup RV sites for those campers who do not require a bathroom or a shower house facility. We offer online booking and payment, so no customer contact is necessary. Since many people are full-time RVers, especially this time of the year, we feel our business is essential to those RVers that need to be traveling. Some of them are traveling nurses that stay here while working at the hospital. Feel free to call me with any questions. Pat Brown, Mayor, City Council members. Horrific, frightening times, sadness prevails. Tough decisions are needed to prevent death, to keep hospital admissions to the least amount possible. You are aware of the statistics more than anyone. Follow the science and do what is right. May God bless America and the world. May God heal the hearts of all of us. Thank you, Mayor Allender, and all on the City Council. And did note that she's hesitant to use her name just for possible threats. This one asked to remain anonymous. As a former nursing shift supervisor with 20 years experience, I urge you all to pass the emergency ordinance related to the worldwide pandemic. In the 50s and 60s, quarantine orders were commonplace and effective. We as a nation seem to be under the assumption that we are free to do whatever we want, no matter the outcome. In reality, when the exercising of your freedoms jeopardize the freedoms, health, and welfare of others, i.e. yelling fire as a prank in a crowded theater, etc., your rights are no longer valid and can amount to criminal liabilities. Allowing the public to self-quarantine is a fallacy. Just look at the spring break revelers in Florida. If you think that this global pandemic is just going to magically pass over Rapid City, you are wrong. As elected officials to your constituents, it is your constitutional duty to obey your constituents, otherwise known as your employers. I understand that this will be a hardship, not just on individuals who may no longer have a paycheck, but on many small and new businesses that may not survive this, but the safety of the public is more important than the corporate profit. It is up to you to do what is scientifically and morally and medically necessary. Enact the ordinance, or you may no longer have any constituents to put you back in office. Thank you. Dr. Judy Sneller. Please enact ASAP the resolution coming up for a second reading with provision to review. This is the time to act, not wait to see how much worse it can get. By then, it's too late. Thank you for your effort to protect us. Seth Breckenridge. We cannot police ourselves. Please close the city. For instance, if we are left to our own devices or left to police ourselves, and there are people not following 15 ways to stop the spread, does that give me the right to citizen arrest or detain that person or persons? And I'm sorry, but rights aren't real. They're an idea. You only have to look back to 1942 when the U.S. government placed 110,000 Japanese Americans in internment camps for having parents who were born in another country. Tim Schnabel. Down to business. I'm not sure where Hart Ranch Camping Resort is being considered as an essential or non-essential business, or if we even fall under the city's jurisdiction in this subject. However, I would like to provide some information to consider. We are open year-round and have nearly 100 people living out here throughout the winter months. In the summer, that number can blossom to around 2,000. We provide essential services including propane, gas, and diesel. We also have a convenience store providing the typical products, food, beverage, over-the-counter medicine, and clothing. We have a shop providing mechanical work as needed. All of our sites are full hookup with water, sewer, and electrical. We also have comfort stations, shower houses, and laundry rooms. Both of these are currently open under strict disinfecting standards as well as a use at your own risk policy. The majority of campers out here can be fully self-contained, but some not. We also provide free Wi-Fi and cable. The Wi-Fi has become more essential as we have members, residents that currently work from their campers' homes. We also have a restaurant that, even though it's currently closed, will be opening in May to serve pickup and delivery items only. Hopefully this helps, but please let me know if I can provide any additional information. Stay safe. This is from Carrie Pappendick. Dear Mayor, Allender, and council members, I commend you all for your guidance and leadership during this time of crisis. As a healthcare professional myself, it is my strong feeling that the health of the community is the #1 priority during a crisis such as this pandemic. Our community's health will help build back our community's economy. The sooner we get healthy, the sooner we can work to build back our economy. Please be the leaders you were elected to be. We need to stop this virus in its tracks by using this ordinance for closures. Thank you so much. Jay Schmidt. I would like to commend the mayor and the council for taking this hard step in protecting our community. We all know how hard this decision is for you all and how much of an impact it will have on business owners and this community. We can no longer act as if this virus isn't here and isn't affecting all of us. We have to take the health and well-being of everyone in this community first and foremost before we can worry about the loss of business in this community. I, for one, will do everything I can to support our local businesses once this health crisis is over, but for the time being, you're all making the right decision for all of us. Thank you. My name is Julia Cahill, and I would like the mayor and the council members to address the issues with stylists, nail techs, estheticians, barbers, and licensed massage therapists during this possible required closings. We work closely with our clients. There is no way you can do your job as a cosmetologist, nail tech, esthetician, or massage therapist and maintain a 6-foot distance or maintain social distancing. Please include these mentioned careers in your ordinance if you pass one. Please at least clarify that they are indeed included so the small shops can be included in any type of financial aid that can be claimed by small businesses. These are our local friends, family members, and loved ones. We need to be able to support them this way. Thank you for listening to my concerns. Skylar Hopfauth. Hello, City Council members and Mayor Allender. I have lived in Rapid City for nearly my whole life, and I respect but don't envy the responsibility for the decision you have to make tonight. However, I implore you to vote to shut down all non-essential businesses in Rapid City in order to spare our community the crisis we are witnessing in many other areas of our nation. I have followed this outbreak for several weeks. I have watched as communities and entire countries are being ravaged by this virus at unprecedented rates. I am heartbroken as families and friends are losing their loved ones, as healthcare facilities overflow with patients, as healthcare workers are exhausted, sick, or dying. We know our hospital is not equipped to handle the sheer number of patients needing critical care in the weeks to come if don't do something now. We may have waited too long at this point, only time will tell. But if we stand a fighting chance at reducing our number of infected and being able to save lives, we need to shelter in place now. Since Sunday, I haven't seen much of a difference in the number of people shopping, running errands, and just living life as normal. Hand washing and sanitizer isn't enough when this virus hangs in the air for 3+ hours. I know this will be difficult. We will be sacrificing all normalcy for several weeks, but it must be done. I hope the City Council and Mayor, along with the Governor, have created plans for our most vulnerable populations, homeless, elderly, etc. They need protection and assistance from Rapid City leaders now more than ever. Resources need to be available while maintaining health and safety. We are blessed with time to prepare for the inevitable spread to the Midwest, and I hope you have taken advantage of that time. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard, and I wish everyone to stay safe and healthy. Fay Ludens. Please allow the golf courses to continue play with the current restrictions now in place. See the South Dakota Golf Association website for precautions and recommended behavior on a golf course. It's an opportunity to exercise. Groups cannot be more than 4 people. Most courses limit the number of people in a clubhouse at one time and take only credit cards for payment, so employees don't have to handle cash. Sand trap rakes have been removed, ball washers are not installed, and pins are not to be removed, all to prevent one from touching hard surfaces. Tee time spacing has increased, so only about half the normal number of golfers can be on the course at one time. Thank you for your time and consideration. Colleen Reagan. I write to you to share my concern, but also support of closing non-essential businesses in the Rapid City area. I am concerned because of the economic impact on our community, our individual businesses, and each family in Rapid City. But I would rather do this than have a spike in the number of positive tests and the inevitability of death. As hard as it is to endure this financial deprivation, it is better to be alive and broke than the alternative. For the sake of our community, let's find our inner fortitude and get through this together. I don't like the definition of non-essential, but that's how it's being described. Our businesses are our livelihoods. Stay healthy, stay strong, wash your hands, and stay home as much as you can. Joe Sparagon. If businesses close down for a month or 2 months, the businesses have a better chance of reopening. If they stay open and someone says they got COVID in their store, the business would fail due, especially if it was released on social media. China has seen the light at the end of the tunnel, but only because of a mass quarantine. Rapid City has only just begun. Let's be honest, California starts some ridiculous laws and sometimes they work. In this case, we should follow suit and have everybody stay home. Essential businesses need to be revised to actually essential to life, and the loopholes need to be looked at. Stephanie Crows. Dear council members, thank you for considering passing the COVID-19 ordinance. The spread of COVID-19 is prevalent in our community. When this ordinance was first voted on March 22, 2020, there were 21 positive COVID cases in South Dakota. 4 days later, on March 26, 2020, this number more than doubled, and there are now 46 positive cases in South Dakota. This spread will only continue through people interacting at local eateries, bars, and other places of non-essential business in Rapid City, and we have to take it seriously. While it is understandable that there has been some opposition to closing down these businesses, it is essential that we issue a temporary shutdown to protect our community members. South Dakota and Rapid City especially are strong, and our community will rally around the businesses who will be forced to temporarily close the doors. Please pass this ordinance. Thank you for your consideration. Amanda Johnson Laircamp, to whom it may concern. My name is Amanda Johnson Laircamp. I am a self-employed licensed cosmetologist here in Rapid City. I am urging the City Council and Mayor Allender to add any bodywork, full-service salons, nail salons, estheticians, barbershops, and massage therapy to the closed list. I rent a booth in a salon that has 4 licensed cosmetologists, plus it has a boutique in it. We have walk-ins every day that come and shop at our boutique. For myself, on an average day, I see a client every hour. I'm open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and sometimes later without taking a break. That is an average of 8 people a day times 6 days a week, which is 48 clients a week or more depending on the days and hours. That's just myself, not including the others. Including the other girls, so for a total, we see on an average day 32 clients per day. Then times 32 clients a day times 6 days a week is 192 clients in a week alone, plus those who come in and shop at the boutique. Every client and myself wash our hands 20 seconds or longer before and after each service. I do the proper sanitation per client, which is wiping down all of my polish bottles that I've used during the service, the nail drill, table, chair, and all the other items I have touched. I use hospital-grade cleaning agents to sanitize all of my tools and follow South Dakota's cosmetology guidelines. At this time, doing proper sanitation is not enough for this virus. The City Council and Mayor are not taking body work, Mayor Allender's words, seriously. The South Dakota Cosmetology Board is even closed, which leaves us in the beauty industry without guidance. I invite the City Council and Mayor to sit in my salon or any salon in Rapid City to see our day-to-day interaction with our clients. As many of you on the council have gotten haircuts and some have gone to nail salons or even gotten a massage, you all know how close in contact we are with each other. I will pray and hope that the City Council and Mayor take all of our letters seriously by adding body work, full-service salons, nail salons, estheticians, barbershops, and massage therapy to the closure list. Some of the full-service salons, nail salons, estheticians, barbershops, and massage therapy will remain open until the council and mayor forces them to close their doors until it is safe to reopen. There are several surrounding states that have closed body work until it is safe to return. Several salon owners have asked for our profession to be added to the list. We are urging the City Council and mayor to close these businesses. We should not have to choose between taking clients and our health. The beauty industry shouldn't have to beg for the right thing to be done. Again, I urge City Council and Mayor Allender to do the right thing by adding body work to the closure list. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Yeah.
This one is an anonymous one. Dear Mayor and Council members, in this time of great uncertainty, emotions are high, and everyone is scrambling to desperately identify and implement the right thing to do to protect our communities. It's easy to find ourselves in a frenzy of conflicting information, leading to a wide array of responses and opinions. Public policy is a difficult job. I serve and have served on multiple healthcare-related boards, both nationally and locally, and know intimately the challenges of creating sound public policy. I know you have gotten a lot of feedback from both business owners and concerned citizens over the past several weeks. Many of those come to you with concerns wrapped in heightened emotions, primarily fear. Fear of the virus, fear of death, fear of socio-economic crisis, fear of loss of welfare and well-being. I have a background in medical science with nearly a decade of professional clinical practice, both in rural and metropolitan areas. I have spent countless hours over the past several weeks researching beyond the headlines to inform myself about COVID-19 so that I can make good recommendations to my patients, my elderly parents, and my friends with underlying health conditions. Today I would like to present you with some of that information, and I hope you find it to be of sound science, statistics, and logic so that you can make the best decisions for Rapid City citizens during this pandemic and beyond. First, I would like to identify the unique challenge that arises when we cross medical care with public policy. In the medical field, every single life lost is a tragedy. It doesn't matter if you've been in practice for 30 years. Any day where a patient dies is a bad day. However, in public policy and in times of war, ask any deployed soldier, decisions have to be made for the greater good. These decisions are often based on an ever-changing set of circumstances, data, and variables. Too great a response and not enough response both have hazardous outcomes. Things that do not work. Confinement without screening and without treatment is both archaic and hazardous. Before humans understood how infectious agents spread, lockdowns were implemented to control epidemic outbreaks such as cholera. Now that we have a more mature understanding of pathology and epidemiology, we know that lockdown practices only slow the spread of infectious diseases, which increases the risk of rebound infection once the lockdown has been lifted. During that time, diseases mutate, become resistant, and are often more problematic to contain. Due to this phenomena, it is imperative that any measures to contain healthy individuals be considered with the utmost care. We know today that a majority of COVID-19 cases result in mild to moderate symptoms, with overall recovery rate estimated in the 80% range. This value is likely to be much higher when broad and widespread testing is implemented, capturing a larger number of people who are likely infected with no or mild symptoms and having a full recovery. One positive about COVID-19 is that we can generally predict who will be most at risk for complications. In Italy, the average age of those who have died is 79.5 years old, with very few fatalities of individuals under the age of 65 years. Less than 1% of fatalities had no underlying health conditions, while nearly half of the individuals who died had 3 or more chronic health conditions, and the remaining percentage of fatalities had at least 1 or more chronic health condition. With this data, we are able to identify those in our communities who need special care and insulation from contracting the virus. At this point, I must give kudos to the retailers who have taken the time to implement special shopping hours for those who are most vulnerable to the virus. These are the kinds of policies that are compassionate and effective, and I hope that these policies continue for all annual cold and flu seasons to help prevent the spread of more common, potentially deadly pneumonia and influenza infections. It is true that some younger people have severe reactions to COVID-19, but they are the exception, not the rule. Most of those who have a more severe reaction do recover with proper medical attention and intervention. However, due to a lack of health insurance or high insurance deductibles, many people delay medical attention until symptoms are severe and persistent. Hopefully, with more widespread testing available at little or no cost, this will not be the case in the near future. Things that work. Currently, all public health recommendations include social distancing, increasing detection of cases, and isolation of positive cases until the individuals are no longer contagious. When we're looking at statistics, if you only test for deaths, you reach a 100% probability of infection. When you test critical cases, you reach a lower percentage, but is still much higher than true value numbers. When testing suspected cases, you get closer to real numbers, but results are still higher than the true value in the population. Broad and widespread testing is the best measure of true value within any population. This is what has been implemented by places like Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, and Korea. When positive cases are identified, those individuals are contained until they are no longer contagious. These countries also implemented the use of AI via smartphones to track and identify movement of positive case locations with about a 48-hour response time. These countries have been most successful in containing the virus and have shown to have the lowest mortality rates with no policy in place for containment of healthy individuals. This allowed for continuation of commerce and stability within their economies. Individuals utilized personal protective equipment such as face masks when out in public. Another unique feature in these countries was that the focus was immediately put on how to produce and distribute as many test kits as possible. This is where countries like the United States and Italy have failed. The test kits are easily produced in laboratories using technology that is readily available. Again, broad and widespread testing is the best measure to capture true value data of rates of infection and for the purpose of containment and isolation of the virus. For comparison, every year tens of thousands of Americans die from influenza. Influenza is an infectious airborne respiratory illness with high virility and potential for comorbidity, including secondary bacterial infections and pneumonia. The mortality rates of pneumonia with influenza, similar pathophysiology as coronaviruses, are upward of 7.5% in any given year. This year alone, South Dakota has seen 23 influenza deaths, 515 hospitalizations, and nearly 15,000 confirmed cases. Generally, people who get the flu do not report or seek medical attention, so actual cases of influenza are estimated to be significantly higher. This year's flu season is categorized as moderate, and vaccine effectiveness rates range from 40 to 60%. This occurs every year from October to May. Every year, tens of millions of Americans contract the flu virus. Public policy during flu season consists of general recommendations with no mandates of containment of healthy individuals. New strains of the flu are fairly common, and we have adapted to living with them even before strain-specific vaccines are available. We know that children, the elderly, and those with underlying health conditions and compromised immune systems are most at risk, and we take more precautions with those individuals during the season. We also know that viral carriage, the course of time an individual is contagious for the flu, can be up to 7 days, longer for children and immunocompromised, and can last beyond the time that symptoms resolve. Unfortunately, some of those individuals who take precautions and receive vaccines die from the flu and its complications. In fact, nearly 50% of individuals who die from the flu each year receive the vaccine. Hope on the horizon. Effective and affordable treatment options are being investigated all over the world. In fact, the University of Minnesota is conducting research on the promising potential use of two common generic medications that have been shown to be effective in published research studies originating in China and France. Other trials of these medications are being conducted in Korea at Oxford University and elsewhere around the world. Initial studies published in The Lancet, available on PubMed, show that viral carriage of COVID-19 was reduced from 20 days to 4 to 6 days in a retrospective cohort study of inpatient cases in Wuhan, China. Industries and private sector companies are coming up with innovative solutions to hospital supply shortages, thus closing the gap created by decades-long hospital budget cuts. What to do? Focus on supporting our hospital staff. I have colleagues in the emergency department at Monumental Health, Rapid City Regional that say ED is slower than usual because people are opting to stay at home or seek other avenues for minor problems and concerns. Work with hospital administrators to discuss the potential for allowing for the administration of the two most promising medications, hydro something plus azithromycin, though they are still being tested. The use of experimental and off-label use medications in times of crisis is not unprecedented. Implement broad, widespread testing for as many individuals as possible. Identify infected individuals who may or may not have symptoms and isolate them. Provide more resources for vulnerable populations. The elderly are often on fixed incomes and cannot afford to stockpile goods for extended periods of isolation. Isolation often leads to mental health problems for these populations, so resources should be made available for better monitoring and early intervention for mental health issues. Strongly recommend utilizing personal protective equipment, such as gloves and masks, when interacting in public spaces. Provide resources for low-income and vulnerable populations to be prioritized in receiving these types of protective equipment. Strongly recommend that people keep themselves as healthy as possible. That includes regular physical activity, healthy foods, clean water, and restful sleep. The pandemic is stressful for everyone, and we all know by now that stress negatively impacts our immune systems. So best to be as healthy and strong as possible. Do not confine healthy individuals due to the high potential for rebound pneumonias. Infectious diseases often come in waves and continue for many years until the population adapts or viable effective treatments are available. Lockdown and shutdown scenarios have hazardous implications beyond devastating socioeconomic effects. And if a shutdown is ordered, at what point is it lifted? It is unrealistic to expect a time when the number of positive cases reaches absolute zero. Again, I want to reiterate that public policy is about analyzing the variables that impact a community and making strategic decisions that have the maximum benefit for the greatest number of people. As a final thought, I love numbers. I want to leave you with a statistical scenario. If 100 people in Rapid City alone were to be infected, they would constitute approximately 0.13% of the city's population. Implementing containment of healthy individuals would mean that 99.9% of healthy individuals would be forced to stay at home, many becoming unemployed, only to be met with the potential for even greater rates of infection when the containment was lifted. Is that sound policy? Thank you for your time and consideration. I know this is long, but I felt the need to share this with you as you move forward with your decisions regarding COVID-19. Due to the high emotionality of the situation, I feel it is best not to identify myself, as my views are sometimes met with harsh opposition because people are afraid and cannot think critically in times of crisis. Side note, they're still flowing in, so I'm not reading anything after I started reading these comments, just so you know, but they are still coming in. I don't know. I just know how many total, so. Hi, Pauline, submitting this for consideration during the public comment. This is from Daniel Stanton. The recent information from Iceland provides important insights about how we should be managing this crisis. Our intuition is to wait until someone is sick before taking action, like putting them in quarantine or testing them for coronavirus. But it turns out that many infected people have no symptoms, so this approach does not slow the spread of the disease at all. Instead, we need widespread testing of everyone, even those with no symptoms. That's the only way to know who needs to be in quarantine, and in the absence of testing, we need to minimize the person-to-person contact in order to flatten the curve. Robert O'Daniel. I'm a citizen of Rapid City. Like all of us, there is a lot of stress and uncertainty pertaining to this virus and the impact it could potentially have on the people of Rapid City. I think that the car washes around town that gives out free towels and provides free vacuums is a nesting place for this virus to move from person to person. These vacuums at some of these places are used by a lot of people, and I'm sure that they are not cleaned after each use and are definitely within the 6-foot distancing radius that even go for self-serve bays. When you get changed, you have to put your hand in to get change, and sharing unclean wands from the bays as well. I have no problem with the tunnel wash for washing cars, but with that being said, they all have touch screens for the people that don't have RFID on their windshields. When it is 50 to 60 degrees out, these establishments are packed with people, and I think these businesses should be put on the non-essential list in order to prevent spread of this terrible virus. Thank you and God bless. This is from Amy Ray. Hello, Pauline. I am a small business owner, and the only thing that worries me is, are my childcare families going to get sick? Are my employees going to get sick? How will the parents pay tuition if they don't have money? How will my employees eat and pay their bills if I don't pay them? Should I shut down for the safety of everyone or be a hero in this industry like I know essential works need and be open for them? I just want others who trust in me to know I have made the right decision for them as an employer, a business owner, as a teacher, as a parent, and as a resident of Rapid City to keep everyone safe and thriving. So I wanted to pass my own bill. No one should have to pay anyone anything until this is over if your state is declared a disaster state. Everyone should come together this way instead of handling out trillions and trillions of dollars and tanking the economy. Then when it's all over, we resume life like nothing happened. Thank you. I'm almost through yesterday's emails, if that helps. This is Calvin Luke. I have concerns about the way the city is dealing with the virus. We are being punished by actions of others whom don't want to practice social distancing. I've watched the special city council meetings. Not one person has ever thought of sharing what the Bible has to say about the time we are in. God is upset with us. Mayor Allender's plea for people not to hoard have fallen on deaf ears. I have had to go around the city to purchase toilet paper. Not one store has any in stock. Amazon shut down 3,900 sellers for gouging on prices. Then there is the case in Tennessee of the brothers that got arrested for hoarding hand sanitizer, 17,000 bottles. The mayor and city council have not given any advice to the business owners that are closed down. It's time for us to shine, help the less fortunate of the city. We need to step up, come together, repent of our sins, turn back to God. For too long, we have turned our back on God. We took down the 10 Commandments, took prayer out of the schools, and have needlessly killed 10 of millions of babies by abortion. Our so-called news media has us in panic mode. I'm afraid to see what we will do in the near term. In the last days, we are told about a time such as this famine, earthquakes in various places, pestilence, in a new world order, a one-world religion, the soon rise of the Antichrist. People need to dust off their Bibles, start reading, praying, seeking Jesus while he may be found. Mayor, City Council, staff, you are in my prayers. God bless. Jerry Munson. Dear Pauline, please convey my gratitude to the mayor and the city council members who voted to respect the CDC guidance regarding social distancing and gathering restrictions. It is controversial and not without significant short-term pain for those being asked to comply. Even so, I believe it must be done for our community's very survival. A very smart and well-respected billionaire CEO of the investment firm Pershing Capital, Mr. Bill Ackman, has recently made the case for completely shutting down the entire country for 30 days with complete stay-at-home restrictions for all. He claims that his research supports the idea that our country can withstand 30 days to beat the virus and still emerge battered, but with an intact economy. He also claims that the same research underscores the fact that if this situation lingers for 12 to 18 months, that we as a capitalistic nation cannot survive the economic devastation and permanent bankruptcies that will result. I'm no genius billionaire, but I do know that smarter people than I have concluded that we must do all we can to keep the virus case numbers low. This is if we're going to have any hope of treating our friends, family members, and neighbors if they get sick. It also means that we may get past the worst faster with this ordinance than if we continue business as usual. It's kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off quickly. Please vote yes on second reading and then resolve to create an emergency task force that would be charged with exploring any and all reasonable ways the citizens of our great city can continue to patronize our businesses without putting anyone in harm's way. Some businesses are already doing curbside pickup, some are delivering. It's a great start, but let's get serious about expanding it. Let's ask, what else can we as citizens and as a government safely allow? And what are all of the components of a transaction, and how can the city facilitate new ways of doing that? We Americans are the best in the world at creative solution. It's what we're really good at. I hope that as you vote tonight to save lives, you also commit to looking at every possible way we can assist our businesses and storekeepers so we can get through this together. Thank you again for your dedication to such very important work. This is from Alexandra V., an RN. Dear City Council members, I am writing this on behalf of the healthcare professionals in Rapid City. At what point do we, as a community, start taking a proactive approach to COVID-19 instead of being reactive to it? Medical professionals are scared of what we are seeing. We are scared. I would like you to consider that for a moment. Medical professionals see things on a daily basis that most people would consider unimaginable, yet we are scared. We are currently training on how to transition into roles that we may not be used to. Specialized nurses are getting a refresher in bedside nursing, surgical techs are learning how to become nurse aides, and ancillary staff are being redirected into departments that are expected to become quickly overwhelmed. Certain projections of this pandemic are expecting an inpatient surge to our hospital of over 1,000 people. Our current maximum capacity at the hospital is 290. That same data is showing that the expected number of patients which will require a ventilator to be 800. We currently have 46. We tried social distancing, but nobody is staying home, nobody is listening. We are trying to shut down any group congregation, but it is still happening. By allowing non-essential businesses to stay open, by allowing people to gather in any area, by allowing non-essential travel, we are putting our wants ahead of our community's needs. Medical professionals are already self-isolating when we are not at work, and we have been for a while now. We do this in order to protect our neighbors and to protect our community. We don't like having to do it just as much as the next person, but we are making that sacrifice for the greater good of the Black Hills. While it is true that certain groups of people may not get sick and will not die, the virus will use any one of us as a mode of transmission. It uses the healthy to infect the susceptible. Seeing people not listening to the recommendations and hearing people fight these recommendations breaks our hearts and hurts our spirit. It hurts because we are the ones that will be separating families from their sick or dying loved ones. It hurts when we have people dying in hospice, but because of this virus and because nobody wants to self-isolate, we have to tell their family members, I'm sorry, but we can't allow visitors at this time. It hurts when children are sick, when they are scared and confused, when all they want is to be held by their parents. We have to look at those parents and ask which is staying because we can only allow one. We are scared. We know that we will be exposed and chances are we will get sick. Majority of us are okay with this as it goes with the territory. What scares us are the what if thoughts. Well, I may get sick and survive. What if I accidentally pass it on to someone? What if they do not survive? We are doing everything we can, making all the sacrifices that we can, and putting not only our health, but the health of our families and our children at risk in order to preserve the health of you and yours. And yet nobody is listening. I am imploring you to not only pass this measure, but to add to it. We need to get ahead of this virus before it gets out of hand. We need to lock down the city, just like many of the major U.S. cities have done, before citizens of Rapid City are hospitalized by the hundreds and dying by the handfuls. We need to get ahead of this before it becomes a major disaster. When this is all over, when we as a community are left picking up the pieces, do we really want to be asking ourselves, how did it get this bad? Or do we want to say, maybe our decisions were overkill, but it didn't turn out as bad as we had expected? Thank you for taking the time to consider this. Deborah O'Brien. Although city ordinance is a step in the right direction, I feel we need to move faster to stop this virus in our area before it is too late. Since there are not enough tests being given to all those who are sick due to lack of tests, I feel numbers do not reflect accurately the number of people affected, especially since people can be walking around with it and not knowing. Would encourage Rapid City to include all non-essential business, including retail. People are still shopping for non-essentials and not social distancing, and this will increase when their entertainment venues are closed. Some companies, especially national, will not close unless directed by the government. They are depending on government to tell them when things are bad enough with little concern for local citizens. Allowing these businesses to remain open just tempts people to go out and do something fun for a while with little concern of the virus, or the employees have no choice but to be at work or lose their jobs. It makes more sense to stop the virus in its tracks now than to wait till it's let out of its box and try to stop it. Thank you for your consideration and appreciate all that you do. Kim Wood. Hi, and thank you for taking time to read this. As a member of the community, I'm begging you to shut down all non-essential businesses. I am a hairdresser, and nowhere in the proposed ordinance are we included. We all are at risk as we cannot practice 6 feet apart, and we have been having an abundance of travelers from California, Washington, Colorado, etc., because we aren't on lockdown and have few cases. This is how it is spreading, ignorant people coming to our state and putting us at risk. Please shut down the borders and stop all flights. Keep out our state safe, please. I'm at risk, as is some of my co-workers. Please keep us safe at this time when we need it the most. Help stop the spread as we as a community will pull through. This is serious. It's not convenient, but it is a must. Do the right thing and do our part to help the U.S. curb it. Thank you. Megan Mullen. Dear Mayor Allender and whom it may concern. My name is Megan Mullen. I am 37 years old and work full-time as a self-employed independent contractor cosmetologist. I have one son who is 9 years old and enrolled in public school in 3rd grade. As you know, I am homeschooling at this point. His father lives in Seattle, Washington, and therefore is not able to take him for spring break this year due to the novel COVID-19. There are 4 stylists who work in our salon. We have all 4 taken it upon ourselves to follow the CDC to practice social distancing and shut ourselves down for a minimum of 2.5 weeks. With 0 income coming in, we are still required to pay our full monthly booth rent. With doing nails, I hold hands with people. With doing hair, I'm inches from their faces with open mouths, talking while shampooing out hair. There is no possible way to stay the recommended 6 feet while doing our job safely. I'm concerned about the support I may need if I get into a financial struggle. What options will I have? Are we considered small businesses by independent contractors and able to qualify for a small stipend to help survive? Is this the day that salons, barbers, and massage therapists will be considered non-essential businesses shut down for the safety of our fellow community? Please be a leader. Thank you so much for your time and hard work as we sail through these uncharted waters. Tim Powell, this shutdown law is completely unnecessary. If you had been out in the community, you would see the restaurants, bars, and retail stores are already empty or nearly so. We do not need the heavy hand of government dictating what is already being done. Sarah Labor, to whom it may concern. I'm a longtime resident of the Black Hills, and I've lived in Rapid City for 2 years now. I am a millennial, and I work in the food service industry. I am writing to tell you that I am scared. COVID-19 can be carried by a person for up to 11 days without them even knowing it. I am not scared that I will get the virus. I am scared that I will unknowingly pass it on to someone else. I am doing my part to social distance, but I can see that there are still those who aren't. I know that closing doors can be difficult for small local businesses. That's why I would not only like to ask that non-essential businesses close their doors for the time being, but also that you do your best to create ordinances that help them in this time of crisis. For example, ask landlords not to collect rent on closed businesses for the next 3 months. The U.S. has surged in the past day to having more cases of COVID-19 than China or Italy. We can continue to flatten the curve through social distancing, and if people don't have reasons to go out, then they won't. Please continue to keep non-essential businesses closed. Thank you for your time. Stay safe. Donna Waters, you must act now. We need all casinos, bars, recreation, gym, salons, etc., as well as non-essential retail businesses closed ASAP. I understand the hardship this causes many working people. There is nothing more important than life. This virus is spreading and won't stop unless these decisions are made to slow it. I have several family members in the medical front lines of this, and it is scary. Please protect our community now. Trish Jones. We are now in the situation of possibly over 200 people who may have COVID-19 just in West River, potentially a lot more due to the fact we are not testing. We need to shut the city down until we get an honest and clear picture of what's going on. We are living in a false security and people will die from it. It's time to stop this before we are out of control and our hospital is overwhelmed. Thank you. This person wishes to remain anonymous. The lack of positive test results for the state and county give residents a false sense of security. Listen to the recommendations of both the South Dakota Medical Association and our local physicians and pass the ordinance. The sooner we do this, the sooner we can return to some sort of normalcy. John Sales. Hello, Pauline. I feel the mayor and city council are causing panic with their knee-jerk decision from Monday's vote to close non-essential businesses. Every business is essential to the owner and, more importantly, to the employees of each business. This isn't New York City, and before some council member makes an absurd statement that he or she doesn't want to become another New York with this virus panic, here are some pure facts. We have a handful of cases in the state. This decision will only lead to more unemployment, business losses that will struggle to reopen once this knee-jerk reaction is over. How about some perspective? There are more people shot and killed in Chicago in 2019 than this virus has killed in the United States. The common flu in 2019 caused 57,000 deaths. 8,200 have died this flu season alone. In the U.S., between April 2009 and April 2010, the CDC estimates that there were 60.8 million cases of swine flu with over 274,000 hospitalizations and nearly 12,500 deaths. That's a mortality rate of about 0.02%. This thing has killed less people in the same time frame than cigarettes, cancer, drunk driving, domestic violence, car crashes, stabbings, overdoses, and the above-mentioned facts. Most people who get this have mild symptoms. 69,000 have fully recovered in China. There are no closures in 2009, 2010 of non-essential business. In fact, I don't remember hearing anything about it as compared to this virus panic. Now start using common sense and stop adding to the media-induced widespread panic. Americans can't expect the government to do everything for them. Government is not going to save you. There are way too many who see this in a pessimistic view. It will never turn out good. It will always be doom and gloom. That is a fact. Walk into Safeway and see the empty shelves. Some people are impervious to good news. There's a lot of good news. The mortality rate is extremely low. There's very good news about treatment and the newer medications. You will see more people die as a result from a totally destroyed economy. What is sad is that there are many people who just want to see failure, no matter what the cost. You need common sense and stop making decisions based on fear and emotion. Now wash your hands and live the life they don't want you to have. This is from Dan and Renalda Driscoll. A very loud and clear message needs to go out to returning snowbirds that they absolutely must self-isolate for at least 14 days when arriving. The same really applies to anyone who is returning from anywhere with substantial exposure risk. Although it will be painful for the tourism industry, we cannot have tourists bringing in the virus where such a big component of our community is retirees, many elderly. Thanks for your consideration. Matt Thrash. Greetings, Mayor Allender, Mr. Lewis, and Mrs. Armstrong. This is Matt Thrash, owner of Thrash's Tattoo and Wild Idea Tattoo. Thank you for your attention regarding COVID-19 and businesses closures. I feel that tattoo shops, personal care services, and any other business type that have non-essential direct human contact have been overlooked in the COVID-19 business closure ordinance as it has risen. Please add us to the list. In an effort to preserve my business and overall viability of my service field going forward, I preemptively shuttered both shop doors a week ago on March 18. As schools and other businesses closed, as well as people working from home, we saw an uptick in numbers of people funneling through our doors, looking for someone still left open, and I felt I couldn't control the situation. I couldn't bear the thought of a community spread positive coming through my business. As much as it hurts, closing was simply the safest, wisest, and proactive thing I could do to protect my clients, my staff, and my family. I'll speak for my crew here. It breaks our hearts to not be tattooing and piercing right now, but it's just not an option to social distance or be 6 feet apart in our jobs. Non-essentials need to step aside to reduce exposure and relieve unnecessary pressure on medical providers, first responders, and essential businesses and services. I feel it is playing with fire to try to time a closure perfectly, and we should err on the side of safety. If our area truly has low confirmed cases, I feel we should do everything we can to keep it that way, which buys time and certainly gives us all more options going forward as this crisis plays out. I believe our fellow local citizens surely have the drive and skill sets to pick up the financial pieces when it is time. Thank you. I respect your efforts. Holly Bell. Hi. Are there any plans for protecting people from evictions and foreclosures so people can remain in their homes? And what plans or protections are in place for homeless and those in shelters? Hope Cootie. My concern is dealing with evictions. We were ordered to be out by April 1st. Here's our problem. My girlfriend became very ill the end of December, almost died from respiratory failure, and now needs oxygen to live. We also have an 8-year-old and 2-year-old. The 8-year-old no longer has a safe place to go, which was school. Now that everything is shut down, we have nowhere to go. And imagine trying to drag a huge oxygen compressor around that needs to be plugged in. The mission won't work due to the fact it's a big barracks. This is a time no one has seen, and people like us are scared. We have nowhere to go. How hard would it be to suspend evictions for even 2 weeks? The landlords are not the only people losing money. We're average paycheck to paycheck workers and have no savings. So can you please explain why you're allowing evictions to go forward? Please explain this to me. Cindy Ronfeld. Please close Rapid City down. As someone who has potentially been directly exposed to the virus, the fear is real. We must take responsible actions, no matter how difficult, to stop the spread. People clearly are not doing this on their own, and you as leaders need to do your jobs because more people will listen. And if even one person who wouldn't have otherwise stayed home does, that could potentially save a significant number of lives. Thank you. Nicole Musfelt. I fully support the closure of Rapid City. Thank you for your hard choice to keep the citizens of the city safe. Lisa Mason. Hi, Pauline. I work with the public at a non-essential establishment. Myself and all my coworkers are scared to be handling customers with face-to-face close contact. Most of my coworkers are elderly or those with long health issues, but our employers are more concerned with the business remaining open. I am in support for the shutdown. Thank you for your time. Michelle Macrander. Good morning. I am writing in favor of closing down all non-essential businesses in Rapid City. As stated in my previous email, I am scared for this community. Last week we had 20 cases, now has doubled through the week. We now have a case close to home, a monument worker who had contact with 112 patients. Think how many 112 people had contact with other people in this community. They went to places in Rapid City, they saw family and friends. Those family and friends went to places and saw their family and friends. It's a cycle that will continue if we allow our community to not take this serious. We need to act because our state and country are failing. We have people to take care of, not businesses. I'm scared for my parents, my baby, my husband who works in the front lines that deals with exposures every day. This needs to end, and it starts by closing down. As stated before, 10 days ago we should have already been closed down. 10 days closer to health, less spread, and 10 days closer to freedom of this. Thank you. Sue and Ted Peterson. Council members, put residents' lives ahead of their fortunes. There is not one expert on the council. Rely on experts only. The best case scenario is the naysayers say the council overreacted when this is over. The opposite would be a tragedy for our city. Corey Krebs. I believe that Mayor Allender is correct in urging the city to take quick and decisive action. The faster and more diligently we work to contain the spread of COVID-19, the faster we can get back to business as usual. Half measures and hand-wringing are only going to prolong the negative economic effects and endanger more Americans, both their livelihoods and their very lives. Thank you. Shelley McDaniel. I can support this ordinance to help stop the spread of the virus, but I also would like to see the city do their part to show the rest of us that are taking such a financial hit that you care about us and our taxpayer dollars. And looking at some of the top paid city officials, many are over $100,000 a year. The library is closed, the civic center is closed, the airport is in reality almost closed, and each of these directors makes between $100,000 and $150,000. Show us that you care and cut their salaries by 50%. That is still way more money than we can make on unemployment. Thank you. Matthew Clutter. In these troubling times, it is absolutely essential that we act now. Delaying closing non-essential businesses is going to lead our community into great trouble. Clearly, this is going to have a negative impact on the local economy. And while I can understand these concerns, quite frankly, if a major health crisis occurs here, there may be no economy to save. The economy is not going to be unfixable. However, if many people in Rapid City die because of a lack of action, causing COVID-19 to spread rapidly through our town, these deaths and the damage that this will cause will be irreparable. Now I think that it is valuable to state just how many people may be affected without action. Various studies show that at least 70% of the population will become infected with the virus if we don't take dramatic action. In Rapid City, this amounts to over 52,000 people being infected with COVID-19. Assuming the current mortality rate of about 3%, this will lead to over 1,500 people dying right here in Rapid City. This is over 2% of the population of the city that could die if we do not act. Even assuming Governor Noem's estimate of 30% of the population in the state becoming infected, this still leads to over 22,000 infections in Rapid City and over 650 deaths, accounting for nearly 1% of our city's population. These terrifying numbers may even be an underestimate if our hospital is overrun. This would clearly be a disaster of unparalleled proportions. If the worst happens, the economy will be the least of our worries. Slowing the spread of the virus to prevent the hospital from becoming overwhelmed needs to be at the top of our priority lists. While the situation is bleak, we still may have time to act to save the lives of many people. However, time is rapidly depleting. We need to limit social contact as much as possible to help flatten the curve in our city. Just because there have been few cases reported thus far West River, it is naive to think that the virus is somehow not here. If we act now, we can help slow the impact of the virus and hopefully make it so the doctors in our city don't have to make the terrible decision about who can receive a ventilator and who must die. This is a drastic situation, and I hope that those of you on this council who voted against temporarily closing these businesses last Sunday can see the urgency and importance in sacrificing some profits to save lives. If anything, I fear that the action proposed is not drastic enough to mitigate the incoming disaster. Side note, this is a senior at Stevens High School currently. This is from Anthony Rhodes. As a citizen of this community, I acknowledge this ordinance will cause some discord. However, we already have positive cases of COVID-19 in the community. Those who have kept in the know of the modality of this virus's manner of spread, infection, and life cycle should have no problem accepting this measure as prudent and necessary. Let us flatten the curve by accepting, abiding by, and adopting this ordinance. May God bless with his favor by shortening the duration of this pandemic so we may engage in open commerce again. Thank you for serving our community. Adria Haig. Hello, please close down Rapid City. I've spoken to physicians across the country and South Dakota is behind. Furthermore, most cases have not been diagnosed or counted because of lack of testing. Close the city before it is too late. I personally have self-quarantined due to negligent businesses and citizens refusing to practice social distancing. I'm a professional in the community and a psychotherapist. Chuck Henry. What about all these commercials that are running for these closed businesses still running on television? People would adventure out to these businesses and about carry-out food. These commercials need to stop. This one happens to be on the first reading of the amendment. And from Justin Taylor, I highly oppose this. This is a shortcut for the council to do whatever they want and circumvent the ordinance process. Dave Madden. I want to start by saying outright, I do not agree with this forced shutdown of Rapid City businesses. This is a rushed decision with minimal thought and planning behind it. It's a decision pushed by manufactured panic from the media and not facts. Businesses that are capable of controlling how many people enter and can keep their patrons distance from each other should be allowed to do so. I can't go to a casino and sit 10 feet away from the next player, but I can still go to at home and shop for patio furniture because that's essential. Explain that logic to me. Here's a statistic from the CDC website on influenza. So far this flu season, there have been at least 38 million flu illnesses, 390,000 hospitalizations, and 23,000 deaths from the flu. That statistic is from today. That's the flu, not COVID-19. This happens every year. Are we going to start shutting everything down every year when flu season hits? No one is being forced to go out and be in large groups of people other than grocery stores and large chain stores that are busy because of the panic buying incited by the media. It's not the city's place to force businesses to close their doors. If people are concerned about being exposed or exposing others to COVID, then it is their responsibility to quarantine themselves. I support the businesses that have taken it upon themselves to shut down. That's their right. So in turn, businesses that wish to remain open and follow CDC guidelines and maintain a safe and clean environment for their customers should be allowed to. I would like anyone on that council to explain to me how I am in more danger of getting COVID from walking into a video lottery casino rather than fighting crowds at Walmart or any other grocery store in town. No one is addressing the long-term economic damage this shutdown will cause. We must also look at the area we live in, the Midwest. We are not like New York, California, Washington, or even Colorado. We don't shuffle thousands of people through subways, and we are not forced down crowded streets shuffling face-to-face with people. If we look to slow the spread of this, then start turning cars around that are coming from states that have high numbers of COVID cases. Several businesses are already feeling the effects from people trying to stay inside more. That's going to be hard enough to recover from. But if you force all businesses to drop their income to zero, you are going to cripple Rapid City's economy. It has been stated that they don't expect this virus to peak in South Dakota until the end of May. So if we close down now, we run the risk of being shut down until June. It's time for everyone to be smart and act like logical adults. Trust the people in the city to take care of themselves and do not force the destruction of local businesses with this shutdown. Kimberly Lathy Greger. Good evening, council members, and thank you for allowing remote public comments. As a small business owner who directly depends on other businesses, the last thing I want to see is our city shut down. Doing so will no doubt have devastating financial impacts for so many. That being said, I am also a mother and a daughter. I do not want doctors at Monument Health to have to choose between another patient, my mother, or my child when there is a shortage of ventilators, and worldwide evidence tells us that will happen if action is not taken. So far, the testing in South Dakota has been inadequate, and it would be dangerously ignorant for us to think that COVID-19 is not already spreading throughout every community in our state. Just this week, we found out that 100 cancer patients and several healthcare workers were exposed here in Rapid City, and that is just one instance that we know about. I am very grateful for Mayor Allender's leadership throughout all of this, and thankful that our local and state leaders seem to be taking this more seriously than our leader in Washington, D.C. Hearing our president talk of opening the country back up by Easter terrifies me. I cannot stress enough how grateful I am that our local leaders seem to be using science, facts, and evidence to make their decisions. My own business is suffering. I have had to put my dreams on hold, and I stay up at night worrying about my financial future. But for me, that carries no weight against the health of myself, my loved ones, and our community. Putting capitalism above humanity is nothing short of criminal. If we do not take this outbreak seriously now, when we have the chance, I think we could have an even bigger, longer financial crisis in our state. I think shutting down all non-essential businesses is the right thing to do. It is the only responsible course of action. Thank you for your time. Sandy Dobbs. There is something to be said about that old adage of, it is better to be safe than sorry. Vanessa Neal. Pauline, my name is Vanessa, and I would like the mayor and the city council members to address the issues with stylists, nail techs, estheticians, barbers, and licensed massage therapists during this possible required closings. We work closely with our clients. There's no other way we can do our job as a cosmetologist, nail tech, esthetician, or massage therapist and maintain a 6-foot distance or maintaining social distancing without our tools being attached to broomsticks. Please include these mentioned careers in your ordinance if you pass one. Please at least clarify that they are included so the small shops can be included in any type of financial aid that can be claimed by small businesses. These are our local friends, family members, and loved ones. We need to be able to support them this way. Thank you for listening to my concerns. Stay safe and healthy. Jennifer Carr. Hello. Is it possible to reevaluate which businesses that are considered essential? The broader the definition, the more people will go to these places just to get out of the house. We have seen this behavior when we have a blizzard and people go out anyways because they're unable to stay inside for a couple days. This needs to be addressed now rather than later. The sooner we address this issue, the better. Thank you. Megan Brown. Good afternoon. We are in the midst of a public health crisis. Well, up until this point, this virus was only deadly to immunocompromised and senior citizens. It is starting to kill healthy young adults, to include a 17-year-old child who was previously healthy. While that 17-year-old wasn't here, we should be concerned about our kids. We don't want it to get to the point where kids are dying here before we do anything. We already have over 100 people that are immunocompromised exposed to this virus. We also have 2 local military spouses who are exposed to this that could have possibly spread it to the base. I understand that business are not prepared for this, but the health of the public is more important. We have expectant mothers who may no longer be able to have their spouses there for deliveries. Don't be selfish, slow the spread, flatten the curve. It's not just about you, it's about the entire community. Thank you. William Williams. To whom it may concern. For almost 11 years, I've owned and operated Black Hills CrossFit, a gym in Rapid City. The coronavirus lockdown ordinance that's being voted on tonight, if approved, will close our business for the duration of the lockdown. Unlike a restaurant, there is no way to offer our services on a carry-out or drive-through basis. Our business has already been negatively affected by this, even before the lockdown goes into effect. If the lockdown persists for more than a couple of weeks, it will likely bankrupt us. No amount of fiscal responsibility or emergency borrowing can prevent this. A gym that cannot provide services will lose clients rapidly, and without clients, the gym will no longer have a reason to exist. Bankruptcy will be imminent. We support the public health imperatives of this lockdown, but we humbly ask that businesses such as Black Hills CrossFit be considered in this ordinance. Please provide some manner by which we can continue to operate under CDC guidelines. We run on a class schedule and rarely have more than 10 present per class. We have a huge amount of space, and we have rigorous cleaning and sanitizing procedures. The risk of transmission of coronavirus is low at Black Hills CrossFit. I know that an amendment has been added to the ordinance that may allow for certain businesses to apply for an exception to the lockdown. It would be my request that this ordinance specifically include gyms. With proper safeguards, we are not a vector for transmission. We are a crucial component to the health and wellness that is essential to ward off infections and diseases such as COVID. Please do not overlook our vital importance to the community as a whole. Please do not bankrupt us. Mike Reisler. Dear Mayor Allender and council members, in the realm of business, designated which ones must close versus which ones are allowed to stay open offends my sensibilities. However, we in the Rapid City area find ourselves to be far outside the realm of business, and what might be the most fair and equitable conditions for our friends and neighbors who operate local businesses has regrettably been superseded by the COVID-19 pandemic. Having experienced both the 1972 flood and the attacks on 9/11, I've lived long enough to abide by a couple of overarching principles. The first is doing what is not only the best, but what is vital for the greater good of the community. Unquestionably, protecting the health and safety of the public is absolutely for the greater good of us all. The second principle would be the application of the emergency rule. When all the current ordinances, policies, rules, standards, and practices are inadequate to address a crisis situation, new measures must be enacted and remain in force until the emergency is over. The rule is invoked sparingly and only for just cause, but without it, lives and property cannot be protected. No one can argue that we are living through an emergency right now and for the foreseeable future. While we must protect our entire community, it is imperative that we do everything we can to protect our healthcare, law enforcement, and fire and EMS professionals. These people are our last line of defense, and they need our support now more than ever. The proposed ordinance will give them the best chance at staying healthy and for staying on the job for us. These folks have invested their lives in this community, and they need to know that we have their back. I applaud the courage of the mayor and the council to enact an ordinance that is sure to anger some and frustrate many. But the fact is, these are dangerous times, and there really is no other choice. As such, I thank the good Lord for each of you, and will keep you all in my thoughts and prayers. Retired, so it was signed Mike Ressler, retired firefighter and Rapid City Area Schools Board member. David Cadis. I'm wanting to ask as to what kind of consequences a business can face that does not provide a safe workplace for their employees when they stay open during times like this. I work for a local flooring store that is not deemed as an essential business. They have done nothing to make work a safer place, no social distancing. We still interact with customers with no PPE to use. I asked at one time for it, but ridiculed by my boss for it. I feel like stores like the one I work at should be forced to close since they have shown no concern towards this virus and the possibility of their employees contracting it. Andrea Rosenberg. Last Sunday, I ran down to the city council meeting to comment when the speakers all appeared to be business owners who oppose closure. I work with people that are incarcerated and moving through the judicial system. I will likely be considered essential if closures go into effect. I firmly believe that South Dakotans have a higher level of risk because of the prevalence of addiction, particularly in Rapid City. What I thought I would comment on instead, however, is what I've observed of people and myself thus far. Last Friday, we had to go to PetSmart for food supplies for both our pets and our fosters. I consider that a necessity. While there, I got some ghost shrimp completely for fun for my freshwater tank. They're active and jumpy little critters, and while I was acclimating them, one jumped out and I stepped on him. Now, did I need to go back to PetSmart to replace him? No. Is he an essential supply? No. Is everyone at this point screaming at people like me to not leave their house for things like this? Yes. So Saturday at PetSmart, you had to know that's where this was going, right? I was social distancing. I wasn't touching random things or my face. I was standing 6 feet away from the gal in line ahead of me getting fancy guppies, fun little fish. I'd established my social distance bubble when a couple walked directly into it and stood a foot away from me to look at marimo balls. They were so close I could have touched them. For those of you who don't know, marimo balls are aquatic balls of moss. They're super cute. The obvious common denominator in this anecdote about fish, shrimp, and balls of moss is that none of us should have been there. All of us should have known better at this point. For my part, if you asked me why would you do this, a genuinely self-reflective answer would simply be because I could and because I wanted to. People opposed to closures are saying that people are using common sense, that people are self-policing. Many people are, but many others are not. The authority for this measure is there. The need is there. I am thankful to the 7 members of the council and Mayor Allender for passing the resolution to close non-essential businesses. Not all of us can be trusted to do what we need to do in this situation. This resolution is a bare minimum procedure to protect others and prevent spread. I hope that it goes into full effect. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you to those in the medical profession. Mea culpa. This one would like to remain anonymous. Looking for something to divide the gray area on business closures. The mayor has given the suggestion that businesses can close if they choose, but what category would we be under if the community doesn't issue a closure for a drive-through business and the business chooses to be open? Where does that put us? Working for a corporate business, if the city isn't specific on closures, people will come if we are open. The only way we could close would be if the city issues a closure of drive-through. We are local and are exposed and don't want to be looked down upon because we are open, so I ask the council to be covert specific and consider all avenues of business, including corporate businesses. Dr. Weiland, to whom it may concern. Thank you for taking my email. My name is Dr. Kevin Weiland, and I have been a practicing internal medicine physician in our community for over 20 years. I've worked hard on public health issues to include our anti-smoking efforts as well as addressing the obesity epidemic. In my professional career, however, I would have never expected to campaign for the health and safety of my family, my patients, our healthcare teams, and the citizens of Rapid City due to COVID-19. Shutting the non-essentials and social distancing ourselves, I believe, is the only way to slow the spread of the virus. We know that 80% of those infected may have mild symptoms or none at all. They will go to work, to venues, to restaurants, and spread the virus to others. It is the 20% that will get extremely sick that I worry about. These patients may need hospitalization or even an ICU bed for life support. If our system of care is overwhelmed, there may not be a bed or a ventilator available for you or someone you know and love who becomes ill with the virus. I am aware of the fact that we may lose jobs as a result of this difficult decision. I'm also aware of the secondary crisis that will ensue as a result of this decision, but we have a treatment, even a cure for the economic toll to come. We have no cure for this virus. All we have is social distancing. Additionally, we have less capabilities of slowing the spread due to the shortage of testing supplies. Eventually, we will even run low on personal protective equipment or PPEs. In times of crisis, I believe we will see great discoveries, but until we can develop a safe vaccine or an antiviral medication to treat the virus, the only way to slow its spread and flatten the curve is through the actions and recommendations of the CDC and our mayor. Thank you for your time. This one wishes to remain anonymous. When are you going to shut down the city? My boss refuses to close or even reduce hours, also refuses to split us into shifts or even maintain a safe environment, claims we are essential. Just watch my neighbor, who is supposed to be in quarantine, jump in her car and run to the convenience store for beer and cigarettes. What are you going to do to prevent this from happening? I don't want to leave my house, but I can't leave my job. Pat Hamilton. Rapid City government officials need to adhere to the recommendations of the medical and health experts, not the voices of non-health related businesses at this time, when the health of the public is in peril. Business recovery may be slow, painful, and unfortunately there may be other casualties. However, there is no recovery from death if we do not take this crisis seriously. There is no room for mere recommendations or voluntary compliance. There must be mandatory compliance to isolation protocols. Businesses are welcome to add additional safety measures at any business deemed reasonably necessary to stay open. Partial openings may need to be considered, grocery portions of Walmart or Target, for instance. Stores deemed critical to remain open must adhere to the mandatory guidelines. For instance, a grocery or hardware store, which the public may need to access to fix broken items in their homes, may need to comply with criteria like locked doors to regulate entry, temperature monitoring at the door, maximum number of people in the store at one time, accommodations for 6-foot distances at all times for employees and public alike, etc. Some of these measures may feel draconian, but if we go severe now, we will likely have greater success containing the spread of this virus. I strongly urge the Council to let public health take precedence over temporary inconveniences of the public and businesses. Our governor appears to be merely urging people to do the right thing. That is not enough. Rapid City needs to take stronger action. Frank Morrison, Thirsties. I agree 100% with the shutdown. However, I'm afraid it is falling way short of the goal. Responsible local small business owners have already closed their doors to protect our citizens from the virus, some of us long before the mandate goes into effect. All of the good that is being done by local small business owners is rapidly being undone by reckless, irresponsible corporate retailers. We all need groceries, prescriptions, and personal hygiene items, but casual shopping for non-essential items should be prohibited. These huge retailers allow customers by the tens of thousands to meander through their stores, eating, touching everything, buying non-essentials. The virus needs people to spread. Are we to believe that the virus will not enter Walmart because they are essential? I was told people don't usually spend a couple of hours in Walmart like they do in bars. Are we to believe the virus can keep track of time and will only infect those that stay beyond the time limit? My point is, the huge retailers should be held accountable just as small business is. They should be forced to allow only online or phone orders for essential items only, with curbside pickup to include prescriptions. A major pain in the butt? Yes, but our lives depend on it. The people that spend time at the big retailers potentially carry the virus back to their families and ultimately to healthcare workers. It is a slap in the face to those of us trying our best to do the right thing. Respectfully, Frank Morrison, Thirsties.
So where are we on the emails now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 26 left.
I think we've been very patient and generous with the time. There's, at this point, I don't know that there are any unique emails being heard.
I don't remember. I've read all these before tonight, but I can't remember who said what at this
Now,
point.
I think we're getting the impression, but we've been here 2.5 hours listening to public comment, and I understand what an important issue it is, but you got 26 emails left, which could be another half hour or 45 minutes easily. And I think out of respect for everyone else's time, we should get on with the agenda. And thank everyone for their email correspondence. We're learning the hard way about taking email for public comment, and with no limits on the length. So say let's move along and get down to item number 1 on the agenda, which is to approve the minutes for the March 22nd, 2020 special council meeting. Motion by Armstrong and a second by Lewis. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, second reading ordinance 6412, an emergency ordinance to address a public health crisis by implementing certain measures which have been deemed necessary to slow the community spread of COVID-19. We have a motion to approve by Lewis and a second by Armstrong. We'll go to Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wouldn't want to sit here for 2 hours and not say anything. I'm sure everybody's kind of looking to go home, but just want to point out, folks, you know, I've been hearing a lot about this being like the flu, this is, you know, not going to hurt that many people, but the flu starts in September, October, peaks about December through February, and then it kind of slowly goes down. So it kind of goes a curve, kind of like, oh, the one we're trying to flatten, right? So it goes down like that, and therefore we're not overwhelming our healthcare system all at once. And oh, and by the way, the flu virus has been in human beings for, you know, hundreds of years, if not more. And so we have kind of a built-in immunity to it as a species. But this is a new virus, and it hasn't been in our bodies before. And viruses like that tend to behave differently, and our bodies tend to react differently. And they tend to make them really severe sometimes. And those of us who are, I don't know, a little overweight like myself are more susceptible to that. And we have a lot of that going on in a Rapid City. Now, I'm not too worried about myself. I'm more worried about the older people. But if you think you're not susceptible to that, or your family's not susceptible to this virus, you're crazy. I mean, we have all kinds of issues going on, a lot of pre-existing conditions that are caused by the fact that you know, Americans like to think they're all David Goggins, but the fact that they're more like Homer Simpson. We don't take very good care of ourselves as a society, and we need to think about that, because this is the kind of thing that's going to overwhelm our healthcare system. And all those people that you care about out there that are vulnerable are going to be hurt. They're going to maybe even die. And our healthcare workers are telling us, these people, you'd think, you know, they're not doing this for fun. They're not saying, oh, I really think we're going to be busy. No, they're worried. They are not want to make the kind of decisions that are going to be put before them. We don't have enough ventilators. We don't have enough drugs to make those ventilators work, because you have to sedate people when they go in. We just don't have the beds. All these people getting sick at once. And I want to be wrong. I hope like heck I'm wrong. And this, by the way, this ordinance is only in place until April 8th to start with. So if we don't see something happening soon, then we'll know pretty quickly. You know, and we'll also know 2 weeks from then. I mean, it's going to be pretty obvious relatively soon, I would say. And we're going to have to, you know, react as we go. But this is not something that anybody up here wants to do. Nobody wants to close down businesses. I sure as heck don't. I've been the most pro-business person I can think of up here. I've done everything I can to fight for business. But this is a case where I've got to put that aside and put my own interests aside, which is, I'm sure this makes me, you know, persona non grata in a lot of business worlds. I've lost a lot of friends. That's fine. But we've got to do what's right, and that's listen to the people who are the experts, and they are telling us we need to act now, and we're not acting enough, and we're not acting fast enough. And something's got to be done, and the only thing we have in our toolbox is social distancing. Don't listen to the internet. Go all these miracle drugs that are out there going to save us, they're not here right now. They might be in the time, but it takes a while to get those things. You have to test them. There's so many steps they have to go through, even with an accelerated process. It has to happen at a certain pace. You don't just start taking random things. And we have to test those things. They have to be tested out, and we have to make sure that they work, and we have to get a vaccine, and that's all going to take time. And until that happens, all we can do is social distance. And believe me, that's the last thing I want to do. I'm a social guy. I don't want to be, and I don't want to sit up here and tell you, you know, your business is out of business, because quite frankly, if you look at this ordinance, if you really look at it, the words essential and non-essential aren't even in as far as I'm concerned. I haven't seen them unless I'm missing it somewhere. And we haven't really, we're trying to pick and choose losers. We're trying to pick places that have the most people concentrated in for long periods of time. You know, to close down the rest, we're not even closing down the infrastructure here, folks. You're going to have water, you're going to have electricity, you're going to have internet, you're going to have cable, you're going to be able to sit there and ride out this in style, basically. I mean, the money might be tight, but you're going to have a lot of resources there. I grew up during the Cold War. I thought we was going to emerge from a fallout shelter to a blown-up world, nothing to eat, scavenging around like a bunch of, you know, prehistoric apes. You guys get to live out this worldwide crisis in your living room with internet. You can watch cat videos. You can watch Netflix. This is not, we're not taking away a lot of your rights. We're just trying to save a lot of people, because it's going to be something we don't want to deal with. And so this is minimal. This is going to make it, we're not acting enough, honestly. And I think it's not going to be enough, and I think we're going to find that out pretty quickly. But I still will be supporting the original passage, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor.
Got promoted there.
Earlier this evening, I see. Today made this ordinance very clear to me. I had to go see my health care provider. And before I got in the door, they took a lady with a mask, took my temperature, gave me a sticky note with my temperature on it, which I then got to go into the office, show the health care person that I had a 97.1 temperature. Before I got in the door, they called me at home to make sure I didn't have all these symptoms. So if I wasn't concerned that our health care providers are concerned about this, I am now. But I also think that there's some businesses that are doing a good job. I had to go to the quilt store because I self-isolated last week just to be safe. So I took my baggie and I passed it to her and I left and I called her and how much do I owe you? Then I went back and picked my bag up again. My bag will sit in the garage for 72 hours and I will be safe. And then I look at businesses like the Colonial House, how they are reinventing themselves with the takeout delivery. People couldn't find hamburgers, so they started selling 5-pound packages of hamburger. People couldn't find eggs, so they started selling eggs, and they're reinventing themselves, and kudos to them for just being so initiative with their business and making it what their customers wanted. I know a lot of the people tonight said, well, we're your taxpayers and, you know, we're your business. You are our businesses, but the people sitting at home and the senior citizens and the kids that aren't in school, they're also our business. We're reacting, and I think we're reacting to save lives. It's correct. The governor didn't order that people stay at home, and it's correct that this is an individual versus an economy type of choice, if that's what you want to boil it down to. But none of us here are voting on this ordinance to be reelected. We're never going to be able to prove that this vote even worked. It's subjective. The naysayers will be able to point back and they will have data on taxes and the economy. But we aren't going to have data that we saved 300 lives in Rapid City with this vote. We aren't going to get that because we're slowing it. We're not stopping it. But with all that said, it's almost like this. I'm going to go on a diet and I'm not going to eat sugar. I'm never going to be able to prove to my husband that because I'm not eating sugar, that I'm not going to get diabetes, or that I'm not going to get kidney disease, or I'm not going to get liver disease or high blood pressure, because I've stopped it by not eating the sugar. So I think we shouldn't eat the sugar. Let's stop the coronavirus if we can. If we have an opportunity to save people, I think we need to do that. It turns my stomach to hurt businesses, but it would turn my stomach more to lose citizens. I yield.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval of second reading. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, time out. I don't see you. Oh, because you're pushing the wrong button because we're separated. Push the... Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to go backwards now and get John Roberts. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I figured more people on the dais would speak about this because this is a very important issue. And I appreciate Dr. Lewis's comments up here. One thing that I've realized over the last week, doing as much research on this as I can do, reading what you can from the CDC, from Johns Hopkins, all the peer reviews that are out there from scientists, is the only thing that's 100% accurate out there is nobody really knows. Everybody has a difference of opinion, and there's not enough data out there right now to really be making a lot of these really difficult decisions. There's a lot of fear out there. I agree with the gentleman sitting out in the audience. We're really doing a lot of things in this country and worldwide based on fear. I read a couple of really interesting articles by professionals, highly qualified doctors today, on herd immunity. I'd never even heard about herd immunity before today, because I am not a doctor. That's one thing I'll say. I know very little about this. I'm learning more about it every day than I ever thought I would need to know. But one thing a couple of these highly qualified specialist doctors are saying is we need to have a certain percentage of this going around in society to build up immunity. Now, we're going to get that one way or another. We know that even if we self-isolate, because we have to go somewhere, and like I said last Sunday, probably the biggest threat we have out there right now is Walmart and Costco. Where you get hundreds of people congregating. It's not the casino that's got 5 people in it. When they're bleaching every machine, it's not the restaurants that are already 50% down in business and are lucky to have 10 or 20 people a day come in. And it's easy for people that don't own those businesses to say they're non-essential businesses. But to the owners and the employees, they're essential businesses. And I find it interesting that we don't even want to, or we didn't even discuss wanting to try letting businesses, fall within the CDC guidelines of 10 people, at a time. But on the other end of that scope, we're not pushing Walmart, Sam's Club, any of the big box retailers to limit to 10 people at a time. One of the things I think, and one of the reasons I think we're not doing that, is once you start pushing these big corporations around, they might come back and sue you. You push the little guy around, you have very little, or you mitigate your chances of being sued. And I do appreciate the memo that our city attorney sent out today, because there's been a lot of people that have been concerned about whether or not this is constitutional by shutting businesses down. And I do agree that we're picking and choosing which businesses we're shutting down. Because if we were doing this on a broad scale, we'd just say, okay, we're going to lock everybody down, we're going to shut every business out there. I was hoping to see more in that memo. I was hoping to see something in it that would tell me that we are 100% within our rights to do this. Unfortunately, I didn't see that. I didn't see any case law where, you know, somebody has done this before, which I was hoping to see. And it's scary times. We are in scary times. We don't know what to do. If we do the wrong thing, yes, it may kill people. It may kill 100 people. It may kill 500 people. And that's awful. We don't know. You know, I do know by looking, well, at something else that I was reading today, is now they're saying some of these predictive models that are out there are completely wrong because we don't have enough facts. And, you know, if we're just going to close things down without facts, when is this going to ever stop? Because you're going to have viruses that are coming out every single year that are going to be different. You can only close down for so long before you completely decimate your country, before you absolutely have nothing. And, you know, I didn't support this last week. I haven't changed my opinion with all of the research and everything that I've looked at. I know that I'm an evil person according to a lot of people out there. I know a lot of people out there have said that, you know, I am going to be responsible for people's deaths, and I'm going to be... This has been a very difficult decision for me. As a business owner, I pretty much shut my business down, and that's because I feel like that's my responsibility. But I don't feel like as a government we should have the responsibility to tell people they have to do it. If they want to do it, they can do it. They should follow the CDC guidelines if they're staying open. You know, and other people say, well, you're not affected with this. Becky, my wife, is one of those people taking temperatures. My chances of getting the virus are probably way higher than anybody on this dais. Am I living in fear every day? Absolutely not. If I get the virus, unfortunately, I'm going to be one of the percentage that gets it. Hopefully, I'll live through it. But if I don't, I'm not going to lose any sleep today, tonight, or tomorrow. Anyway, I'm not going to live in fear. I'm going to be one of the people that's a little bit different than most of the people right now. I think there's a lot of positive things that have been happening. There's been a lot of changes in the last 3 or 4 days. Yes, the numbers are going up. They're not going up anywhere near what they said they were going to a month ago. And I think you need to take a look back at the predictions, you know, 2 weeks ago or a month ago. We're not hitting those numbers, even nationwide. We have places within the country that are spiking, but they're large metropolitan areas. So anyway, thank you, Mayor, for letting me speak more than my 5 minutes, and thank you for the council. And, oh, I am running for re-election, so if anybody out there can give me a signature, I might need a few extra ones this weekend. Thank you.
All right, Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I could, I'd sign your petition, John, and I appreciate your comments. And I appreciate the citizens of Rapid City and their comments that they've made. I appreciate their compassion for each other, their independent spirit, and their attitude. It's a can-do attitude, and we can get through this. I just think that the evidence is showing that this pandemic is growing, and we have to try to get ahead of it. We're already behind, and I think that we're blessed because of where we live, and we're sparsely populated, that so far it hasn't gone on to the terrific rates that it has in other parts of the country. But the scientific data and the medical evidence shows that the virus is spreading, and that's undisputed. The data shows that all communities need to take further action to slow the spread of the virus. And despite what are no doubt Herculean efforts by Monument Health, I think that it's pretty clear that we're still short of the resources to deal with that, to deal with the sharp rise in cases. We need more personal protective equipment for our healthcare providers. We are woefully short of ventilators. And if I could just digress for just a minute, last Sunday before this meeting, I called a friend of mine. He's a lifelong friend of mine, and I trust what he says implicitly. And I just wanted to find out. He works at the hospital. He's an anesthesiologist, and he said, you know, it's concerning the lack of equipment that we have. And I tried to turn it to something more light in our conversation. I said, so what are you doing this afternoon? It's really a nice day. Are you going to go out for a hike or what? And he goes, no, I'm watching videos. I said, oh, what's playing at your house? And he said, well, I'm watching a video to see how I can hook up more than one patient to a single ventilator, because when I go to work tomorrow, I might be faced with that situation. So our healthcare providers are concerned. And I mean, my heart breaks for the people who will be devastated by this pandemic, either their health care or their families or their income. And, but I just think at this point in time, we have to act, and I'm going to continue to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you. This ordinance has been something that has weighed heavily on my mind and heavy on my heart. And despite the outcome on this issue, I think we can all agree that this has been an extremely challenging decision for each and every one of us. I personally feel that we are at a historical point of our lives that will have long-lasting personal, economic, psychological, political, and overall societal ramifications. Regardless how this vote goes, I want you all to know that your voices have been heard and have been taken into consideration. We may have differing opinions on this matter, but there is one thing that unites us all: frustration. We are frustrated that we even have to address this issue. We're frustrated that our lives have been turned upside down, frustrated that our children's education has been impacted, frustrated that we have to practice social distancing, frustrated that toilet paper and other common essentials are limited, frustration with the uncertainty of it all. I could go on. But understand, we are all impacted by this. I get it. I shared that I put my own business on pause about 2 weeks ago. My husband's business has also been affected, and certainly my friends, my neighbors, my constituents, acquaintances, and strangers will also suffer in some shape or form. While I am sympathetic to everyone's own unique situation, please understand that by not taking these measures now, we risk the very real possibility of the expansion, the prolongation, resurgent, or even a possible mutation of this virus, which will then only result in continued business closures and even more disruptions in our everyday lives. We are in this together, my friends. We need to support one another. We need to be kind to one another. And during these especially challenging times, we need to be patient with each other. We can do this, folks, but we need all of us to do this together. Thank you.
Okay, the motion on the floor is for approval of item 2, the second reading of the emergency ordinance. We'll go to a roll call vote now. So, Pauline?
Drury.
Aye.
Lehman. No. Lewis. Aye. Armstrong. Aye. Stroman. Aye. Roberts. No. Nordstrom.
Aye.
Drew.
Aye.
Evans. Aye. Motion carries 7-2.
Okay, thank you. Now to item 3. First reading ordinance 6413, an ordinance to address a public health crisis by allowing the Common Council to implement certain measures by resolution which have been deemed necessary to slow the community spread of COVID-19. Motion to approve by Lewis, second by Stroman. We'll go to John Roberts. No way. We'll go to John Roberts. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After what I said on the last one, you can imagine that this probably scares me more than the first one did, because of the fact that really, you know, if we call a special meeting like we called last Sunday, which happened just hours beforehand, if we decide that next week non-essential businesses are whatever, you know, because we already did that with the last one. We just decided whoever and whatever is non-essential. So when we do that and we decide other businesses are non-essential, we could call a meeting 2 hours, 5 hours, day before, however we do it. But once we bring forward that resolution, that can become enacted immediately. So it really limits the ability of the people to be able to speak on this issue and voice their opinion on it. And I really don't believe in limiting the people to be able to speak on an issue. So anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to vote no on this. I'm sure nobody's surprised at that, so thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, first of all, want to thank everybody that participated in tonight's public comments. And I want to especially thank Pauline for going force on making all these comments public. And I would suggest to the mayor take a look at the comments that were not written, because we will have to do a second reading on this second ordinance to take a look at, see if we can't enter those into the record at the next meeting that were not read tonight. Just a suggestion. I've done a lot of research myself, and most of it's local here. So I want to applaud and thank Elevate Rapid City for putting up on their website. If you go to their website and go to the resources tab, then you will find a lot of information about unemployment insurance. You will also find a lot of information for the small business owners, to give them some kind of assistance. And Elevate has also got a video out there that helps you through the application process. However, please give yourself a lot of time and patience, because the last feedback I've gotten is that their website has been crashing. So even in the middle of the night, it's a very slow process. So be patient with it, but keep working through the process. And in the interest of time, I'm going to run through some other items that I've discovered along the way. And if you need some more information, I'd be happy to share that. Representative Dusty Johnson sent out an email with a lot of suggestions, answering a lot of questions about what we can do with this bailout. The next item is for my consideration is the WHO, CDC, and the health professionals here nationally and locally have given us suggestions about what to do here. And the mayor has come up with some good ideas, and I'll mention that here in a moment. But what is taking place in New York City, Washington State, and New Orleans, as an example, will come here. It will come here. Just stay tuned. Monument Health now is asking for people to make and help with their PPE issue, is that personal protective equipment, they are in need of help or assistance in getting those items. And if locally here in Rapid City, you can donate it to their warehouse over on East St. Pat and Laboratory Street. The Hills also have cities with places that you can make those materials and or PPE and set it into those different cities. The mayor has made up 5 different steps: the hands, elbow, face, space, and home. And I hope he will have a chance to talk about that tonight too, because I think it needs to be reiterated. And I think this is a good process to follow. I also want to address the mental health expert that we had in the audience tonight. Dave Jetson spoke on mental health, and I believe that's an issue that somebody will have to address. But in the meantime, I encourage you to call 211. And again, if you need some more information on that, we'd be glad to provide more information. And I'm also going to support the motion because I am on the side of of safety. And with that, Mayor, thank you. I yield.
Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask on this resolution on number 5, we've added I, J, and then of course 6. Is that a question for the city attorney?
Yeah, we'll go to Joel Landine, City Attorney.
Could you explain why those have been added, please?
When I looked at the Yankton ordinance that had the resolution, that's what kind of first brought it up. The Municipal Attorneys Association has been kind of emailing. There's a listserv. We've been emailing all week, and a lot of the attorneys obviously have been discussing this issue, and a lot of the other communities are looking at it. Those were some items that were in the Yankton ordinance that I thought were good. I will also say I've already been having conversations immediately after Sunday. We had some conversations about the golf courses. Some golf courses started to contact us. Obviously, the city owns golf courses. The initial plan for the city was probably to keep the golf courses closed for now. Some of the privates were talking about being open. I was approached and by council members asking about that and looking at some of the materials that were submitted, and some of which you heard tonight. It was decided that, you know, we would try to take an approach where we did not close down businesses unnecessarily, and that if they had programs in place to limit the clubhouse exposure, that we could successfully follow the CDC guidelines and allow golf courses to be open. I do not believe golf courses are included in the initial ordinance, or that we could operate them without that. But because I'd already worked with several of the golf courses in town with what their policies would be to implement social distancing, I decided just that was in the Yankton ordinance, and so I decided to include it in this, just to be clear.
Well, I don't have anything against golf courses or golfers, but when we've got in there phrases such as, okay, any outdoor facility such as a golf course or archery range consistent with CDC recommendations on social distancing and safe distances between patrons can be maintained. And we're allowing that exception. I'm wondering how far this is going to go. I mean, could I try to get an exception for my quilt store as long as my quilt store is consistent with CDC recommendations on social distancing and safe distances? As long as they're willing to practice that, can I get an exemption for them? And then my other question is on number 6, where it's saying that we could have additional restrictions. Could we also in there have that we could maybe get rid of some restrictions? Let's say we're seeing it effective in some of these places. Maybe we could, I don't know who the question is to, but maybe we could get rid of some of the restrictions.
I'll start off with the answer to that and then turn it back to Joel. But the whole purpose of this ordinance revision to allow you to make changes by resolution is to do just that, to provide some flexibility to understand where we need to reduce a certain business type, make an exception for, add a certain business type. So the whole thing is about that. Yeah, because this is a rapidly changing situation. With this first wave, and hopefully only wave, of CDC recommended closures, it specifically mentioned bars, restaurants, and recreation facilities. Not ball fields, was a very vague approach to it. So discretionary entertainment, drinking, eating out, that sort of thing. So that's what we addressed. But as time goes on, I believe there will be new CDC recommendations. We need to be able to respond to the ever-changing scenario without having 5 days of a waiting period in between. The public's input is important, but in a crisis, as I've said before and got some funny looks, crisis management and democracy it has to be carefully weighed when we're talking about protecting the greater good. So I'll turn back over to Joel for any further comments.
Thank you, Mayor. And you know, it's in separate provisions, and it probably would have been more clear, but I think the point was, yes, you can by resolution not only expand the list of closed businesses, but you can also, under subsection J, exempt businesses and reduce the, I think, list of closures. I would just say your quilt shop currently isn't covered in the closure order. So, I mean, it's closing bars, restaurants, and entertainment facilities where people congregate for discretionary socialization, not all retail or anything. And when you hear some of the comments, you do wonder, well, you're favoring Walmart or Target over the small business. We're not closing all small businesses. If you are a small retail business, you are not required to close. Of course, we are encouraging then that all of the businesses that are not mandatorily closed certainly follow the CDC guidelines and try to maintain social distancing and do things to help prevent the spread of this disease.
Okay, Trust, you had your question answered.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr.
Chad Lewis.
Landine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say, you know, basically what you guys already kind of cleared up for me, so I was in the queue, I might as well talk. But point being is, I guess this is exactly the reason this is for, is what's going on in the situation in the country where we're seeing the number of cases continue to increase. So we passed this ordinance 5 days ago, and even with the limited testing we have in this state, we've already increased from 21 to 58 positive cases at this point. Folks, that's almost triple. And if you want to go, since you're all staying at home and being math teachers now anyway, with at least your parental types, there's a little fun little thing you can do. It's called exponential growth. And right now you're looking at it, the virus is doubling, the number of cases are doubling roughly every 3 to 5 days, depending on which study you believe. But I'm going to go with the 3 right now, and that's 2 to the 10th. So, and you got to figure out a baseline number to test with. So they recommend anywhere from 10 to 50 is a modifier. So you start with, we have 3 confirmed cases in Payne County right now. Well, we'll start the low end, just to be conservative, so that would take that times 10, that gives you 30. So right now, we'll say there's 30 cases that we don't know about out there, positive tests. I'm sure it's a lot more than that, but we'll start with that. Then you take it times 2 to the 10th. And that says in 30 days, how many positive cases you're going to have in this area if you follow the math and the exponential growth. And that's what the growth curve goes like that. So you can go do the math and figure out how many people are going to need critical care in that point. I'm not going to get into that. That's out there pretty well documented, and you can figure that out yourself. But I will tell you once again, 68 ventilators is all we have in this town. As you heard Mr. Stroman say, we got doctors trying to figure out how to hook them up more than one person to them. That's insane. I mean, that's just, who wants to, we're trying to slow this down, folks, so people are not overwhelmed. And all the people that are out there making sure that you have electricity, making sure that you have a clean street, making sure that you are safe. If you break your leg tonight, you're not going to go and question the data about whether or not a cast works, okay? Or if if you have a heart attack, you're going to need a ventilator. These are the kind of things that people are still going to get sick, normal activities, human beings. And we're going to have all these extra people coming in the door saying, I need help. And that's what this is about. It's not about anything other than that. It's just overwhelming a system that's not designed to deal with massive numbers of people at once. And I wish you guys would just I understand the economic impact. I get it more than you ever realize, but I cannot put my own selfish needs ahead of those of the people who are really going to be hurt by this. And that's people who are going to die. And the doctors and the healthcare workers are going to be exposed to this, and the police officers and the fire people, and the first responders, and all the people out there, the older people. And we talked about the greatest generation before. I did last time, and I've talked about it before, because they sacrificed. They knew sacrifice. They knew what it meant. Think about the people during the Blitz in London. Do you think they cared about toilet paper? You think the people, our grandparents during the greatest generation in World War II were worried about you know, I'm not going to be able to go out to eat tonight. They sacrificed for the greater good of this country, and that's why America is such a damn good country, because we know how to come together when we have to. And get over your own selfish needs. I yield.
Darla Drew is in the queue on telephone. Darla?
Thank you, and thank you for everyone that is there tonight and serving our community with this very long meeting. I couldn't make it. I haven't. I'm on antibiotics, and I just felt maybe I was more at risk or didn't want to put anybody else at risk, so I'm at home. Anyway, I wasn't going to speak unless I had something different to say. I've had people that have thanked me for making the change from the 60 days to the April 8th date. They like the fact that it's a shorter time span, and maybe we will know more by then. Also, they're relieved that this resolution, when this does end, and it will end, we can get people back to their businesses right away. We can open them up on that day, you know, when we vote on this, instead of waiting 5 days. And that's a very long time in business world. And so I understand that and I appreciate that. But what I've heard in the community is that they like the flexibility that this resolution presents. And yes, it is an emergency situation. It's a crisis situation. We'll probably never, hopefully, have to revisit this again. But they like the idea that we will be revisiting this. We heard it last Sunday, that we'll be looking at this every couple weeks and looking at the new data, evidence, however you want to put it, and really make the best decisions for our communities. And when we do open up again, and we will, we can do it quickly. Thank you. I yield.
Now we'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to clarify. I think I may have given the impression that Elevate Rapid City's website, Rapid City to Go, is crashing. I apologize. It's not the Rapid City Elevator that's crashing. It's the SBA site that's crashing, this Small Business Administration site that is currently overloaded here in South Dakota. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor for approval of item number 3 on the agenda, and we'll go to a roll call vote now.
Lehman? Lewis? Armstrong? Stroman? Roberts? Nordstrom?
Aye.
Drew?
Aye.
Evans? Drury? Motion passes 6-3.
Okay, motion passes 6-3. Next item on the agenda is for adjournment. Motion to adjourn, Armstrong, second by Lehman. All in favor of being adjourned, say aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.